evening, and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 279th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. The greatest day of our lives is upon us, and none other than our guest of honor is here, and that will make much more sense here in a second when I do get to introductions. But before we get to introductions of our guest of honor, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. The Freestyle Live is back, baby. Yes, event packs have been sent out. I've got one right here ready to go. They offer a unique pre-launch experience for consumers who wish to deeply engage in Drew Estate's newest product releases. The exclusive packs introduced during the Freestyle Live Special Edition broadcast held last week have an MSRP of around $40, but are actually worth way more when you think about it. Each pack contains 3 mystery premium cigars without brand identification, a sleek Freestyle Live high-quality torch lighter, which I'll be using here momentarily, a cigar cutter, and a Freestyle Live leather strap keychain. In addition to these premium items, each event pack includes a Freestyle Live badge equipped with a unique QR code that allows purchasers to enter a sweepstakes for a chance to win extraordinary prizes. They gave away a motorcycle at one point. They can only go uphill from here. The grand prize is a luxury custom pool table. Hell yes. Valued at $11,500 in the prize. And the first prize is a laptop valued at $4,600. Additional 10 lucky entrants will also win custom Subculture Studios ashtrays valued around $150 a piece. I mean, the gifts that just keep on coming. Jonathan Drew, founder and president of Drew Estate from Wynwood Cocktail Lounge in Miami, states, Freestyle Live is an event with an important purpose that always creates a big buzz for our brick and mortar premium cigar partners. We want cigar consumers to be in the cut with us, celebrating each new cigar release together. We love our people, says Jonathan Drew of Drew Estate. So grab your Freestyle Live packs today and make sure you enter those QR codes so you can get into the drawing. Great stuff. I'll be using the lighter here in just a second when we get to our normal customary tradition here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES when my guest selects my cigar for the evening. And welcome, everybody. This is our 279th take. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest of honor tonight, sponsored by United Cigar. Smoke one today and start living united. Mr. Terence Reilly of Aganorsa Leaf. Terence, how you doing tonight?
What an introduction. Wow, that was something. Thank you. I'm doing better now after I heard that intro. That was a hell of an intro.
It's all about coffee, my friend. Just caffeine. It just does the kick. It makes everything better.
God bless it. God bless. If I drank coffee now, I'd be up for, till probably about noon tomorrow. But
well, that's how long the podcast is going to go, Terence. You should have done some coffee. Should have done some. So, no, man, I really appreciate you jumping on again. This is your third appearance on my show, and I can't believe it's been so long. I'm so sorry that it's taking so long to get you back here, but I appreciate
you're important. You're a busy man. You got a lot of more important guests to have than me.
Oh, don't say more important. I am a busy man, though. I am a busy man, just like you. All the thanks to you, Terence. I mean, you did Puro Sabor last week. You hop on a plane, you get back here, and you're raring to go for my show, man. I can't thank you enough. I'm so excited to have you here.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. 279. That's quite a lot, man. That's how many years have you been doing this?
So going into this is my 6th year. So I'll be celebrating my 7th anniversary in November with the show. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a hell of a run.
I can't believe it, man. It's crazy to think that it's 279. I'll be doing I'll have my 300 show at some time this year. So it's crazy.
Wow.
Just insane. Nuts.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And you've been a part of that. You've been a huge part of that. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of the 279, I've been on 3, so I've contributed.
Some guests don't get asked back. I mean, it's just fine,
I'm at 1%. I'm at 1%. So if this was Amazon, I'd be a multimillionaire.
There you go. And I mean, not only is your literary skills just a premium, you also did some impressive math there too. So that's pretty awesome. Because I'm pretty sure I couldn't get a percentage question out of 279 if you gave me an hour. So, but Terence, before we get to some initial questions here, do you have a tradition here on the show, obviously, which is I'd love to join you for a cigar. You're going to tell us what you're smoking here in a second, but before you do, I'd like you to pick my cigar.
What are my options?
So I think you'll like them. I've got some good choices here. So I've got a Cerebras Toro.
Ooh. That's a promising. Next.
Yes, that you actually handed me yourself, by the way. So I've been saving that for an occasion. This would seem like an appropriate occasion. One of my absolute staples that's a staple in my humidor, and I've absolutely loved the cigar, is the Guardian of the Farm JJ, the 5 1/4 by 50.
So far, our Guardian theme here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to break that theme here too. But what we got next is the Aganorsa Leaf Signature Maduro signature selection. Here we go.
Wow, old school, nice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go with the Cerberus. I gave it to you, for God's sake. You might as well,
might as well smoke it. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, might as well smoke it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to crack open the Freestyle Live pack. Use the cutter and lighter that they provided for us. And but while I'm doing that, why don't you? What did you light up today? What are you smoking?
Actually, it's a sample from the factory of something. Well, it's not real. It's kind of a sample. It's a production we have coming out later this year, and just validating it, seeing how it's coming along.
How's it coming along? How's it smoking?
Yeah, well, I just got into it. I don't like to judge the movie by the first 15 minutes. I want to go through the whole thing before I make any pronouncements.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What so like on average, like Terence, I mean, how much validating do you do of like non-release cigars, like ballpark in a month? Like, what are you doing?
Of stuff that hasn't been released yet?
Yeah, stuff that like this is an example.
It kind of goes and fits. Like this week, it was like 80%. It was probably like 90% of what I smoked. It was stuff that either hasn't come out or is a true sample or it's something that's going to be coming out later. But we're just checking to see how it's coming along, or it's something that's about to ship, and we're just making sure it's going to be good, when it does. And so that was this last week. It was probably 90% of what I smoked, but that's unusual. I mean, I would say on average, it's probably like maybe 10% on a given month of something that's not out yet.
Okay. Well, that still has to be one of the most like enjoyable parts of the job, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always fun to have something that you like, either that you haven't. Oh, let's see how this works out. That like I had a lot of stuff with. There's a new Cuban seed, Criollo 2018, and that's like Cuban cigars actually will start being made with it or coming out with it in the next probably year. And we've been growing it, and so I tried some stuff with that. So it's how does this seed, what does it taste like, and how does it impact blends, and that's a lot of the fun. Even now, after all this time, you get a sample of something, you're like, oh, I wonder how this will be.
What I really like about you, Terence, too, is like you obviously there's a vast portfolio to Aganorsa, and there's some really high dollar stuff which we'll get into, like the anniversarial line a little bit later and everything. And then your moderately priced stuff like the Cerberus here, the Guardian of the Farm, things like that are really like good bang for your buck cigar prices, And then of course, but I see you smoking JFRs, I see you smoking New Cubas. I mean,
got to validate everything. Got to validate everything, my friend.
Well, and I think that's I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about like the effort and approach that you've always taken. Like you could easily smoke what you want for the most part, probably. And here
within reason,
trying a sample here or like smoking some of the what we call more value price stuff there, but everything. But like I mean, for my money, I still really enjoy JFRs. And
by the way, that stuff is really, if I have to pick, that stuff pays the bills. So that has to be, this again. I think it's kind of like you have to judge each cigar by what it's supposed to be, and then make sure it's living up to that. So whatever it's supposed to be, it's got to be that, or you're going to have a problem. And JFR, I mean, is still our biggest brand, and so that's really important that you maintain consistency on that, and it remains the cigar that people expect it to be each time they pick it up.
Yeah, I think that the easy comparison, as I was using the Freestyle Live lighter from Drew Estate to light up the Cerberus. I mean, an easy comparison there is like JFR is to Aganorsa Leaf what acid is to Drew Estate. It's just
definitely the new Cuba bundles, the JFR, the Lunatic. Those brands are the other stuff is growing at a faster clip, but it's still not anywhere near as big as that and again, it's also JFR has been on the market since 2005. It's almost 20 years old. So that, that's it's been around a long time. It's had the time to acquire quite a few customers as well. So that's another benefit that it has is that you've got people from you can't rush 20 years of marketing and getting into retailers and introducing it to customers. That there's no way to speed that up really, unfortunately. So it's got to be right because we depend on it.
That's a long time, and at the same time, that's like it's such a blip too. When you think about 20, it's almost 20 years old. I didn't realize that's how quote unquote young it was. I mean, it's not young, obviously, but that means I smoked some of the first JFRs on the market, because I mean I remember having those cigars in college. So like, I mean, that's crazy. So I must have been smoking it like as a new release to retailers. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's insane to think about.
Although if you think about it though, again, you're like and there's stuff that's been on the market since the 1800s or whatever, but like if you look at a lot of the stuff that's I would say pretty popular right now, most of it wasn't around 20 years ago.
That's 100% true. No, absolutely.
No, I shouldn't say most of it, but I would say a large part of it.
Well, I mean, even some like the staple brands. I mean, I don't like they're not similar in the sense of like the similar vein, but I mean they're similar in the sense of like they're a staple. Like the Opus X brand, for example, for Arturo Fuente, it's a staple, right? It's a quintessential. It's their quintessential brand. And that's 30 years old, barely 30 years, not even 30 years old. So it's
95, I think it came out.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, well, thanks for picking my cigar, Terence. I really appreciate that. We're gonna get into this and more obviously here in just a few moments, but just kind of wanted to touch base with you on a couple of things. Obviously, we've hit on this in previous shows and everything. Boston area sports fan. Both of us share that likeness and everything.
Absolutely.
I'm a different on the football side. I'm probably the biggest anomaly ever. I'm pretty indifferent towards the Patriots. I don't like them. I don't hate them. I'm just pretty indifferent towards them, which, for 2 decades, Tom Brady made them the most polarizing team in sports. You either loved them or you hated them. It was pretty great.
They were thinking of making the Super Bowl the New England Invitational for a while.
There you go.
They were just.
I mean, they should have. I mean, honestly, it should have been fine. But now, I mean, the end of an era, man. Tom's retired after did a couple of years down in Tampa, and he's retired now, and now Bill Belichick is gone. How'd you take that news? I was curious to get your thoughts.
I spent the first 10 years at least, probably longer, but definitely for the first 10 years, telling people who kept saying it was all Belichick, it was all the system. Brady's a guy that you could just plug in and, anyone could be successful on it. And I would say, nah, he's a great quarterback. He executes at the moment you need him, blah, blah, blah. Like, and Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. Now it's the opposite, where now it was all Tom Brady and Bill Belichick didn't do anything. And which is equally ridiculous, because the first 4 Super Bowls are not because of Tom Brady. The first 3 are the defense largely. And then the fourth one, Malcolm Butler makes a play that everyone says, oh, Marshawn Lynch should have won. I'm not going to get into that because I have a lot of reasons why that play is not as dumb as it seems. It's actually kind of a smart play. But it just doesn't work out. Like 99 times out of 100, that doesn't work out. The reason it doesn't work out that particular time is because they knew that play was coming, because Belichick is a freak that watches all that stuff. He won 11 games with a guy that never played college football. I mean, he was a backup with Matt Castle I would say Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, and Brady's the greatest QB of all time. And Brady went and he won a Super Bowl. He also brought Gronk with him. He brought what's his name? The guy from Pittsburgh that was on the Patriots for a short time, who's always getting in trouble.
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown was there for at least a lot of the games that season. So he brought in a lot of guys that some of them were on the Patriots who helped.
Yeah, he had Leonard Fournette. Yeah, they brought in a lot of veteran help. It was crazy, man.
Yeah. So again, like, and I'm not taking anything away. It's amazing what he did, but Belichick, the team, the reason Brady left is the team wasn't that great. The thing you can criticize Belichick on a little bit is that he hasn't drafted very well in the past 10 years. So that I can kind of understand. The criticism is like, well, if you don't have an offensive line, it's because you haven't drafted one. And if you don't have any receivers that have done anything, it's because you haven't drafted any. And so that's a fair criticism. But in terms of him like not being a good coach is like absurd to me. I don't know how people can say things like that.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, what a run, man! What an era that we witnessed. And I remember the comeback Super Bowl, the great comeback Super Bowl. And my brother and I were watching it together, but he was texting me. He's like, "Bear, what the fuck am I watching?" And I was like, "Dude, you're watching the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, just sit back and enjoy it." Because we're
that one's Brady. That one's Brady. So Brady's responsible for a couple, right? Of them, but like,
no, for sure.
But definitely, I would say out of the six, you can't really say they won because of him for definitely three and probably even four. So. And then again, he had the two best games he had against the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, he threw for 400 yards and lost. And then they had the undefeated season where the offense was just insane. And it kind of just, it didn't, they didn't win against that first Giants, game. So again, it's a team sport. And we were very blessed to have two of the best the best coach and the best quarterback of all time, and then a lot of other great players as well over the years. Who are Hall of Famers: Vince Wilfork, Richard Seymour, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy. It goes on and on. So there's a lot of great players that have played over the years on the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it was a great era to watch. I mean, if you hated the Patriots, it wasn't. Like I said, I'm indifferent towards them, but I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was, and it was always interesting and enjoyable to watch from that special. They weren't in my team's conference, so that made it a lot nicer, I suppose. I probably would have.
Who's your team? The Cowboys?
The Packers? No.
Oh,
no.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Of course, the Packers.
Yeah. No,
I knew that.
I'm indifferent to the two most polarizing team in the NFL. I don't really care about the Cowboys either. Like, I could take them or leave them. Like, don't hate them. I think Jerry Jones is a moron, but I mean, I think that's most people, even Cowboys fans. So
I think that's not a controversial statement.
I was gonna say it's not really a hot take, but so do you think Belichick coaches again?
No, I think he coaches again. I think he'll coach. So I mean, he'll coach high school football or something. He's not going away. I mean, this is all he does. He's not going to sit around and like pat his grandkids on that. I don't even know if he has anybody. He's not going to do that. So he's going to. I think the problem for him for the NFL is that he's in his 70s, and so what he seems to want, and it seems like part of the reason he left the Patriots. I haven't followed it enough to know any of this for sure, but is that he wants to have like a lot of control in the organization, and to hire somebody that's going to come in and really make a lot of changes to your organization. Probably want to get rid of people that potentially have been there for a long time, that the owners have a good relationship with, or whatever it is. For a guy that, is he going to be around in 3, 4, 5 years? That's probably a hard ask. So he may have some trouble with that. But I don't know, man. I mean, how many coaches in the league can you say are better than him?
Right.
I don't know.
If you had to guess, like, where do you think he ends up?
I saw a report. They're saying he might that Andy Reid might retire and he might take over there at KC. I heard that. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I thought Atlanta was a promising place because they have good tight ends and he likes obviously to use tight ends. And it's a good team. I mean, it's a young team. It didn't have a great season, but they're young and there's a lot of talent on it, or at least young talent. So I thought that was, but now I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happens at this point.
I think he's got to go play someplace with a quarterback like already in place. Like, I don't think he wants the job of developing a quarterback. He's not going to go coach in Carolina or Houston even with CJ Stroud or anything. Although guys said exciting as hell, but like I think that would be a perfect scenario for him, is if Andy Reid retires and he takes that over. And then, geez.
Another problem for him, and again, to his credit, he was a guy that evolved a lot. He went from defensive teams to offensive teams. He started using different systems. You bring back I formation. After it was kind of like a dead like he would do all this stuff. But like in terms of like culture wise, I don't know if younger players. If you look at a lot of the coaches that are doing well right now, they're kind of players coaches. They're like younger guys. I don't think like the totalitarian system that he runs. Even guys that in the Patriot system that did well there, like some of them would say it wasn't necessarily fun even to play there. Like they'd be like, I didn't love playing in New England. It was kind of like a grind. They just were constantly, enforcing all these rules, and yet, if you look at Harbaugh, like he's coming back now. But Harbaugh is another one. I mean, he had 3 seasons. He went to like a Super Bowl, an NFC title game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had 8-8 season, and they fired him because everybody hated him. Like the players hated him, the administration hated him because he wanted to like control everything. Like he wouldn't let the players play cards on the plane, I heard, or something like that. It's like these are grown men; you can't treat them that way. And I think that is more. If you look, a lot of the teams that are doing well, they have coaches who tend to be more, players coaches, and they're younger too. They're guys that a lot of times they're maybe 10 years older than the oldest guy on the team, at the most. In some cases, less than that. So, yeah, that's another problem for him is that coaching the way he's coached somewhere else might be difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. All right. Well, that will take us into tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So, Terence, wanted to kind of take a step back here, and there were a couple things that we hadn't a couple things about you that I haven't touched on in previous takes, but I was interested to talk about. So like I think everyone at this point, we've talked about it on the show, is like knows about your master's degree and the the study of the classics and and literature and everything like that. But if we talked about it, I don't think we talked too much in depth about it. But when you went to Amherst as an undergrad, history was your major.
Yeah, so I was a history major as an undergrad. And I kind of leaned, I had to kind of make a choice between, I did a lot of like American history, like Revolution through Civil War. And then I did a lot of classical history, Greece, Rome, that stuff, late Republic, early Empire, mostly for Rome. And then I kind of had to make a choice, and I ended up going to the classics. And then I did my master's in, classical history.
Well, that's fantastic. So obviously you favored the classics and everything. What was it about that you just really enjoyed over, like, I guess more, newer history, the American history and stuff like that? What was appealing to you there?
I like American history very much. I think it's very interesting, and I think that period, basically kind of the Revolution to the Civil War, is fascinating. It wasn't that necessarily that it was less interesting.
It's not boring,
but
yeah.
I would say it was more the classical world. It is so in certain ways very different than the way we live today, in that you kind of, even with language, like in English, who and whom, like a lot of people don't understand why you would use one instead of the other. One's an object, one's a subject. In Latin, like it's very clear, those type of things. So it's a much clearer like understanding of kind of the realities of life. If you look at like justice system, it was very much a system that was like open, like a bunch of people revolted and they crucified them, and they'd light them up on a hillside, and it was very much like, hey, we're in charge, and take a look at this if you don't mess around. Where if you read Foucault, it's like the modern system is to hide everything. It's like you put people in prisons where nobody can see them, and the power structure is always kind of like hidden And everything's done on behalf of somebody else. It's like, oh, we're doing this for, the power of the people. And again, I'm getting kind of, off topic here a little bit, but like the classical world, I would say, to summarize, is a yes towards life. It kind of like looks at life in its most troubling instances, and it still says it's worth it. It's worth living. And I found that kind of fascinating and interesting.
That's a, I mean, I would say that's a pretty philosophical approach to it. It boiled down to something that I think, I mean, that's pretty deep on a certain level, Terence, because I think most people are just like, yeah, I thought mythology was cool, or like, yeah, or like the foundation, or like to take it a little bit deeper, like, oh, the foundation of modern society interests me, like that's, I think that's a more different way of approaching it. What, like, initially, like, what, and please don't take this the wrong way, Terence, but like, I mean, that's a pretty obviously like an academic route. I mean, what were you looking to do? Did you think you were going to be like a professor, or
yeah. So that was the original goal, is that I wanted to be a professor. Two things eventually turned me off from that. Was one is that, like, quite frankly, I wasn't probably qualified enough. If you're going to be like a professor in classical history, you need to be able to read German, at least read it, if not speak it, but read German. A lot of the Germans are, for ancient Greek and Rome, a lot of the, like, the top regarded opinions and papers and kind of views are done by them. There's some French people too, so you got to be able to read some French. There's some Italian people, and then obviously,
all languages
Latin
fluently, right?
Yeah, no, none of those do I know at all. And then obviously Latin and Greek. Latin, I was pretty far along, and I did pretty well at that. And then Greek, I knew some, but I didn't start taking ancient Greek until I was in graduate school. So I wasn't the type of, it's number one, they're not banging down the doors for classics professors to begin with. And then two, when they choose them, they're choosing like really people that started studying these things when they were like in junior high. There's a lot, a lot of private schools, mostly in Europe, but even some in the United States and the Northeast and things, where like you can kind of take that track from a young age. And I didn't have that. So it would have been very hard for me to ever get like any sort of really, attractive position teaching the classics. And then two, the other thing, which was maybe the bigger of the two, was it gets very pedantic once you get to that level. It starts getting into like you're analyzing, whether it's, ancient glass from the early empire or the late republic or all this type of stuff. It gets very pedantic. And so you kind of I liked kind of the big themes, and I liked the like I wasn't into like military history really. I mean, again, I know of the battles and all those things, but like I'm more interested kind of in the cultural impact, the philosophical impact. That it was more of a way of life than it was a career.
So looking at like it, to boil it down to a subject, more interested in anthropology, right? And like sociology of ancient culture, as opposed to like, hey, like who won the Battle of Thermopylae or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I was less interested. I mean, I'm interested in that stuff to the degree that it kind of ties into those bigger issues, but not in and of itself. I wasn't, studying like how Leonidas like was able to use, geography and speed to, hold off the Persian army or whatever it is. Like not that, again, not that that's not interesting, but that wasn't really why I was doing it.
Right. It wasn't your bag necessarily. Interesting. Okay, cool. So that was your master's, obviously, which was done at the University of Exeter.
Yes.
How did you decide, like, I mean, I recognize probably Amherst was, I mean, which is a fantastic school, was probably geographic based, but like, and maybe Exeter was the same for you, but like, what made you choose the University of Exeter for your master's?
A couple of things. One is that English, Exeter it was a top 10 UK school, and it had a good program. It had this professor, P.T. Wiseman. Fun fact, J.K. Rowling went to University of Exeter, and she was a classics major. And one of the characters, I forget. I've never actually have read any of the books. I was too old when that was coming out to like, really enjoy it, or be interested in it. But she's a classics major, and there's a character that's based on a professor, P.T. Wiseman, T.P. Wiseman. God, it's been a long time, but he's a really well regarded guy for historiography, Roman historiography, and so it was a really good school. And in the UK, it's quite frankly, it's a lot cheaper to go to school. I was paying international fees, and it was still, I mean, a tenth of what I would have paid in the US for an equivalent school that was equivalently of the same prestige.
Did you enjoy studying abroad? Did it give you do you feel like it gave you a different perspective than if you had done your master's here?
I loved it. I loved England. I had a great time in England. I loved living there. I got to see a lot of Europe, and it was, it's kind of funny over there. They kind of work less hard as they go along in their academic path. Their lower schools are harder. And then as you go on, like there was long breaks. I mean, like I did very well there, but in some ways it was easier. I mean, I was interested in the subject, so I put a lot of work into the things I did, but like I could have not put that much effort in and certainly graduated and just spent my time like running around. There's like long breaks between. There's like they divide the year into three terms. God, I forget McMellis, the Lent term. I forget what even the names are. But between each one, there's like a 6-week break. So like by early December, wow, you're out till like almost the end of January, and then like you have another break in like April or something like that. I forget, but there's this series of long breaks that you have, and they just it was a more relaxed life. I liked the pub culture there. I enjoyed my time there. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I love England. I've been a few times, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the country.
What was great? It was great. I mean, England, they always say it's expensive because the pound. I mean, at the time it was like 2 to 1 and everything. So it was $2 for £1 and everything. But groceries are cheap because it's a lot of it's subsidized. So the groceries were cheap, and beer was cheap. Like you couldn't tax beer over there. They taxed everything every which way from Sunday, but you taxed the beer, they lost their minds. So those two, and when you're in college, how much more you need a nice pint, and you need some sustenance. And I remember at one point I would like my food bill like per week was like 20 pounds. Now again, I wasn't eating filet mignon, but I could live off 20 pounds, which is basically $40 a week in food. I mean, that would be hard even back then to now. That would be totally impossible in this country. But even 20 years ago, I remember the first time I did grocery shopping when I got back from living there, and I was like, why is this so expensive? Like I couldn't, I was shocked at how, like, should it be cheaper, like with the pound and everything? But it was much cheaper over there.
Crazy. Yeah. No, I think that's what I've appreciated about Europe. I went this past summer to earlier this year, and yeah, man, it was just.
Where'd you go?
It's fun. Back to the UK. I was did time in Scotland and a little time in London. Yeah, it was great. It was a beautiful visit. A lot of stuff. Enjoyed Stirling Castle up in Scotland and the William Wallace Monument. I did the flights of stairs, the fucking 278 steps, straight up, man.
Oh, one less step than tonight's episode.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, I love the Scottish countryside. It's beautiful, what they say about the Highlands and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And just and then I love, like I said, I love London. So
London's a great town.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this. The first time I got to see a performance at the Globe Theater.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
old Bill Shakespeare's old place.
Yeah, old Bill's place. Man.
Although I think that place, the original one, burned down.
Correct. I think, yeah. It's a remake of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still pretty awesome. I saw Midsummer Night's Dream, which is probably the play I've probably seen the most, and fortunately and unfortunately. But I really liked the take that they had on it. They kind of spun history on its heels a little bit. Back in Bill Shakespeare's day, they had the women were played by men, right? Because women weren't
Yeah.
allowed to act, right? So,
Yeah.
this cast was a majority of women, and women were playing some of the men's roles and stuff. So it was
Yeah.
pretty
I guess that's
pretty great.
that's a good play for it too. I guess like because Puck is a young sprite or whatever he
Yeah,
is. So you can kind of get away with that. It's like how Peter Pan is often played by a woman
right.
because like it's they're young.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's funny about Puck's character. The young woman who played Puck was actually fantastic. She had a very she approached the role instead of like outlandish and like off the wall and stuff like that. She was very dry and sarcastic, and she delivered the lines such as, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. So
I've never actually seen it in the play. I've read the play, but I've never actually watched it. So I can see that'd be a good one. It's a people pleaser. There's a lot of you know uh magic in it or whatever.
yeah,
It's more of a it's not a tragedy.
yeah, I would have probably would have been a little bit of a downer if we're watching like King Lear or Othello or something like that. But no,
Yeah.
it was no, it made for an enjoyable experience for sure. So uh if you do go to the Globe though, highly recommend sprint the 5 pounds extra for a cushion because those seats are very painful. I'll just say.
Yeah, my back
So,
needs the cushion for sure.
yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, especially with your height, the Terrence, like holy shit, man. Like, yeah, sprint for the cushion. Seriously, it's totally worth it.
I will. Done. Sold.
Tough sell though. Well, awesome. Well, um, thanks for going back a little bit in time there, Terrence. Really kind of just wanted to explore some stuff that we hadn't talked about before. I thought it was interesting. Um, so I mean, obviously, fast forward back to your time now, Aganorsa Leaf. Now I'm not sure if I missed this or have you always been a vice president? Like since you started with the company?
I was hired. Yeah, I was hired as vice president,
Okay.
sales and marketing. Again, the
Okay.
only title that matters is owner. That's the only title, and that's not me. Uh, so, you have whatever. I mean, I think people today are kind of obsessed about titles, But that's the title I was given when I joined.
Nice. Nice. So I mean, there's been a lot of flurry of activity this year, and actually, ever since you joined on, Terrence, we're going to get into some of the campaigns that you kind of helped spearhead here in just a moment. But just talking about from a cigar perspective, there's been a lot of activity this year from you guys, and it's been kind of fun to watch and everything. I mean, starting with the Lunatic. I mean, you guys just announced that you'll you and Dave are hooking up and doing a Firecracker version of the Lunatic, which
Yeah,
is
your show
exciting.
sponsor. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
doing one with the show sponsor. That's nice.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, no, Dave. Um, Dave's been very good to me. We didn't work with him at Casada, but he was always super friendly with me and always would give me the time whenever I asked to see him, which I try not to take advantage of too much because I know he's busy. And when I joined Aganorsa, I went to see him. I think the next month I joined December 1st of 17, and I guess January of 18, I came in and he said, "Okay, Terrence, let's do it." And he's been a great partner. He's a super intelligent guy. He's a guy that is always thinking how to like do it better, how to do it different, how to come up with a more interesting way or a more effective way to bring people into his stores or to the business or whatever. And so I always enjoy my conversations with him when he's a busy man, but when he has the time. And they've been great partners, and I'm really happy we get to do a Firecracker. It's a super successful thing that they do. A great example of what I'm talking about, how he kind of is creating different things, and we're really proud of it, and hopefully when it comes out, everybody enjoys validating.
Um, I mean, I'm particularly excited. Obviously, like you could have gone plenty of different routes with this, right? Why did you think that, or why did Dave or Paul or whoever was involved in the decision? Why was the Lunatic line chosen as opposed to some of the other items in your portfolio? Was it something about it just made it?
Well, again, when it's called the Firecracker, it can't be a mild cigar. Not that we do a lot of mild. In fact, we hardly do any mild cigars. But like you want something kind of stronger, and so the the blend we picked that's strong, the Lunatic Loco, which they're all, you know, they're perfectos. There's a 4 3/4 by 60, 4 3/4 by 70, and a 5.5 by 80. And those cigars are debatedly our strongest. I'd probably say the Rare Leaf Maduro is stronger, but it's a one of our stronger cigars. And so they liked the blend for it. And so it was more than anything that the blend was appropriate for the project and they liked it.
Nice. Well, that's really exciting. Like you said, that it's a very, very successful line for Day, the two guys, and it seems like every time, and I mean, it's a guaranteed sold out. So I mean, that's got to be something that you're excited about. Just have the phones go crazy for some lunatics.
Yeah, it's always good to collaborate. Like a big thing I'm always for is like 1 + 1 is 3, you know. And so the more that you can work with people for a mutually beneficial relationship, I'm all for that. So they have customers that probably don't deal with us that much for whatever reason, you know, and that may turn them on more to our products because of this one. And then also, like, hopefully we have a following that will certainly search out anything we do and may not be familiar with some of their brands and now are buying something that we've done for them. So the idea is that everybody wins, and I think that this type of project is a good example of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm particularly excited. I mean, I'm really glad it was chosen over a couple of other opportunities and stuff. Just because I don't know. Like you said, if it's named like Firecracker, you don't necessarily want to, any other names necessarily going on with it. So,
Lunatic Firecracker kind of go, you know, like
right.
You
So
know,
I think the validation line would have been an interesting call. Just my 2 cents would have been an interesting one to do.
yeah. I mean, I think they were somewhat also surprised almost that it didn't end up being something like that. But again, thematically, I thought it worked a little better. It's called Firecracker, you know, the Lunatic Firecracker. I think that kind of like has more of a natural relationship than not that it wouldn't have been successful otherwise, but I just think that kind of name goes well with the name of the cigar.
For sure. Sean's asking in the chat? What is the most mild cigar in the Aganorsa portfolio? Like you said, you guys don't do a lot of Connecticut's. Would it be the Anniversario Connecticut or?
Well, now it's the new Cuba Superior. So that will be the lightest thing, and that's intentional because we're always fighting over kind of the same people, and again, we're a company that's it's more overall for experienced people. It's for people that it's your first cigar probably shouldn't necessarily be an Aganorsa. Depending on who you are, sometimes people can just jump right into it, but usually, again, it's like the first drink you had. You don't want it to be Lafroig or even maybe or even that's an extreme. But like like if the first time you enjoyed an alcoholic beverage, it probably wasn't like a bourbon or neat or something like that. It was probably like a light beer, or it was something that was a mixed drink of some kind or something like that. And that kind of, you're like, oh, this is pretty good, and then you kind of move on, and then you move into things that are for a more experienced connoisseur, and that's, I'd say, more what we are. But there's a ton of people out there that are occasional smokers. They just want something light, sweet, delicious, and they don't want to like have anything that's going to overwhelm them, or they're new. And so this was kind of aimed towards that. And really Fabian Ziegler, who has joined us about a little over 6 months ago now, he spearheaded it. And one of his reasons, it was kind of already in the works when he joined, but he really, because of his experience, Drew, kind of jumped into it. And one of the reasons he was excited about it is that like acid created so many cigar smokers, and then they could transition those guys into Liga smokers, but they weren't going to probably start off with Ligas, or at least successfully start off with Ligas. And so it's good to have that brand that you can bring anybody in with, and then as time goes on, and they become hungry for something a little bit fuller, then just convert them over to the rest of the portfolio.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting for every, ultimately it's like the vast majority of cigar smokers ultimately smoke mild cigars. That's the by far the majority. We
Right.
just have a very vocal minority of stronger cigar smokers.
Right.
Who are very passionate and bring kind of the fun to the cigar industry. But they're not the majority of it. And so it doesn't make sense to have, a company, we're capable of making something to suit a large percentage of the market, and we weren't really doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of a segment of
Excuse
the
me.
market, something that you wanted to, I guess, capture earlier this year with the release at the PCA trade show. The Lunatic gets an additional line extension. You have the 10 by 100 cigar available under the Lunatic line. Gotta be honest, Terrence, I wasn't terribly excited about it. I'm not a big gauge smoker, but I mean,
Neither am I.
You guys know what you're doing. Was there a market for this cigar?
It sold out immediately. We're going to be doing it again at the trade show this year.
Oh wow!
Speaking of Dave Garofalo again, he bought 100 of them. He sold them all. We had a retailer that we had them at the store. I don't know how many they buy. I think 40 or 50 of them or something. Sold through them all, and they got creative. They had a contest, like if you smoked it at the store, you had to smoke the whole thing at the store. They'd write down your time. Somebody actually smoked it, and then you got a T-shirt once you did it. But somebody smoked it in 2 hours, which is Jesus. I don't know how they did that.
They have an iron lung machine on the side. Like holy fuck!
I don't call that smoking. I call that burning. But
yeah,
again, we're here. Like my job here is to serve our customers. It's not for me to tell them what they should smoke or not smoke. And when I joined the company, I was like, man, why don't we make all these big cigars? And then I looked at the sales and I said, oh my God, don't stop making these cigars. In fairness, what I would say has changed my opinion is that a large ring gauge cigar can be as flavorful, if not more flavorful, than a smaller ring gauge. And it's just because if you have to blend it correctly, to do that, like when big ring gauge first came out, I think a lot of the manufacturers, it's a lot of old Cuban guys, and they were kind of like these crazy gringos, don't know what the hell they're doing, and they just packed it up with light seco tobacco that they could get rid of, and the cigar's got a reputation of being bland. Oh, it's a big ring gauge, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. In some brands, not my favorite size because I'm not a big ring gauge smoker, but flavor wise are the best. The Lunatic Torch line, the 4 3/4 by 70 to me is the best tasting one of the bunch. Even sometimes I'll have somebody say they'll be mad at me. They'll say like, "Oh, I love that El Chiquito Habano, but man, I hate that size, but it's so good. I smoke it, but I don't like smoking a cigar that big, but I just love the flavor so much." So I do think you can really get a great experience out of a big ring gauge, but if you blend it correctly. So we're just trying to put out the best product to fill something that fits the market, and that for that customer, if there's a lot of that customer and we shape it correctly, it's successful.
Yeah. So you obviously tried. I remember you actually posted on social media with it. Well, how long did it take you to finish?
Oh, it was like, I don't know. I technically finished it. I was on like I was like at the 4.5, 5 hour mark or something like that. And then I think I gave up, but I smoked it to make sure that you could smoke it. Again, validation is a real thing. We joke around a little bit about it, but you have to make sure that it smokes well. And one thing we're going to do definitely on this new run is put a little bit more. We're going to protect it a little bit more in the box. Each one came in its own individual coffin, which you could bury yourself in it after you smoke the cigar. It was so big. But we did get some damage from the UPS driver throwing them around or whatever. So we had to do some returns because of that. But we're gonna do it again with more protection on the cigar itself. And like I said, we get calls every day. Hey, do you have any of those left? Any more of those? And we'll be making a whole new run for the PCA.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I I confess I didn't try it. The first go around doesn't mean I won't try it. But man, that's so big. That's such a huge cigar.
Yeah, it's funny too because like I was just at Puro Sabor in Nicaragua, the festival, and we actually for our tour we had somebody rolling that specific cigar only because these people see so many factories, you start kind of seeing the same things over and over again. They hadn't seen anything like that be rolled, and one guy he took it and he was smoking it that night. He was doing the Aganorsa Flex, and he was a big dude. He was about my size, height wise, and probably had good 50 pounds on me. He was pretty jacked up, and just loved it. And it actually looked pretty, it looked pretty normal in his hand. Like a big guy, he probably couldn't get away with smoking a petite Lancero or something like that. So. Like I said, we're here, and he loved it. He was like, "Man, the cigar's great. I love the flavor. Man, it like fits perfect." So, like I said, the bottom line is we're here to serve the customer.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that there's such a demand for something that big. I can't imagine. But yeah, you guys did a great job with selling that product last year. It's great that it's going to be back this year as well. Was there any I mean, blending something or creating something that large, you feel like and that's the other rank that I have on like other large gauge cigars, and not necessarily with Aganorsa Leaf, but just in general. Just I think the extra protection is actually going to be a good thing because what I heard was like after a few days, obviously at the PCA trade show, it being handled by hundreds.
Oh
of
no,
people.
yeah, they get beat up,
it was getting beat up and everything. So the extra cushion and everything will definitely work well for it, in my opinion. But okay, well, good stuff there. Just curious about a couple of other things here as we kind of dive more into some of your releases and everything. The you mentioned a guy doing the Aganorsa Flex, and then of course the validation, and I call these campaigns, right?
Yeah.
Like these are marketing efforts and everything like you. And Terence, you and I were talking about this before we launched the show. I mean, you've done such a tremendous job there of creating brand awareness and relevancy. You had when you first started, I mean, you had an old brand, Casa Fernandez. You guys rebranded right away, and we've chronicled that on this show. But I mean, these campaigns, I mean, they seem silly, but I mean, they're all over the place, and I mean that has a lot to do with you. I mean, did you have any like what's the word I'm looking for? I guess were you the engine behind the genesis of both these campaigns, or was it kind of a group effort, or like how did these things come to pass?
So I don't have that many good ideas, quite frankly. I mean, I basically listen to other people, and in both cases, I guess you could say I kind of turned it into something, but like it was neither one was my idea. So on validation, Paul Palmer, our president in the office, like when shipments come in, he would just say, "Okay, Terence, let's go validate what came in." And you open random boxes and you check and you look at the box, you see how it looks in the box, you take it out, you feel it, make sure it doesn't feels right. You look at the wrapper, cut, you draw, make sure the draw is good, you make sure that it burns well, it tastes the way it's supposed to taste. So it's a real thing, and Paul would refer to that as validating. And I just thought that was kind of funny in a way because like it sounds so like serious, and you're smoking a cigar, like you're like so it does have this genuine thing to it, but it's fun to kind of say it that way. And so I started utilizing that to hey, we're not smoking, we're validating. And you get a call from your better half or your boss, they tell you they got to go to the office or do some honeydews or whatever, and you say, listen, I'm validating right now, let me get back to you. Sounds like it's okay. In fact, we even had a guy. He sent me the text conversation where he was his day off, and his wife sent him the text. Hey, honey, I know you got the day off. Are you busy? He said, I'm validating right now, and she goes, oh, okay. Well, let me know when you're done. I got a couple of things I want you to do. So
like
like
that's awesome.
So it was funny. You wrote like, "Oh, you're a genius." This, I don't know how many times it works, but at least you got one out of it. So again, the idea is to have it be fun, but also have it be something that's an actual thing. It's not just totally a made up thing. And then with the flex, I didn't come up with that either. And I started to do it, and um, Ryan out from Colorado, he came up with it, and um, he started saying, it's got a cool image. You got to get people to start doing that. And that one took a little longer, to be honest with you. I started doing that, and I didn't really see much of a reaction to it. And then suddenly you started to see people posting and doing it and things like that. And again, these things are both useful. One of the things I spend a lot of time thinking about is a guy goes into a humidor. Unless he already knows what he's going to buy, he kind of walks around, and you basically got to pray either that somebody in the store, which you have some control over because if you can do trainings and build relationships with retailers, they'll recommend your product, but they have lots of products to recommend. So you got to pray that they recommend your product, or by a bigger miracle, the guy walks around the humidor and somehow buys your cigar. Mm-hmm. Then he's got to like your cigar. Then he's got to remember it. And so think about that process. You've already got all these ifs, and how many times? I mean, again, you've worked retail. Hey, I had that cigar here a couple months ago. It was so good. What's the name of it?
It's a red label. It was a red label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've lost the guy. You did all this stuff. You got lucky that you even got that far, and you lost him because he can't remember. And then he goes and he buys whatever he kind of always liked before, or whatever it is. So you've got to do something to tie that in. That was with the rebranding with the arm. It's the one with the arm on it. It's the one with the these things get them to kind of remember it better. Because it's hard. Most people are busy and they don't have time to remember all the names and brands and sizes and everything like that. They're just kind of living their life, and they have a lot of things on their mind, and a cigar is something they enjoy, and they don't think too much about it beyond that. And so you've got to do something to hook them so that they come back. It appeals to them to begin with, and then they come back to it. And a lot of stuff is driven by that concern of how do you get somebody to remember your brand and come back to it over and over again. So obviously the cigar has to be good, but like you said, it's got a red band. And again, the biggest really surprise for that was COVID, because during COVID, I mean, guys couldn't necessarily go in the store. And so they'd call and they'd say, it's that cigar I always smoke. It's not even a cigar they tried. It was something that they've been smoking for years. It's like, well, what's the name of it? It's got a red band. Well, what size is it? I don't know. It's like 5 or 6 inches long. Well, all they could tell you was like where it was in the humidor. They'd be like, it's on the right-hand side of the humidor, about middle shelf. Like they knew where it was in the humidor, but they couldn't even, and they're looking at this cigar every day and smoking it, and they don't know what it's called or the size or anything. So if some guy's smoking a cigar and looking at that band every day and doesn't remember, I mean, what's he going to do with a cigar that he hasn't, had before? So anything you can do to kind of increase the likelihood that they'll remember you is really important. And so these things, it's meant to be fun, and because it's fun, or I hope it's fun, it helps people remember, and that's kind of what drives all this.
Yeah. No, I think they're really brilliant campaigns, and it doesn't really matter whose idea it was, Terence. I mean, you really delivered on these things. I mean, and I've made that remark going back to your first appearance here. I mean, you really, really grabbed the bull by the horns, if I could just use the metaphor. Like, you really grabbed the bull by the horns when you started up with Casa Fernandez / Aganorsa Leaf, man. I mean, you led the company through a complete rebranding. In a lot of ways, you're still rebranding, but I mean, you led them through that. You got people talking about it. I remember us talking about this. I mean, when we mentioned JFR earlier, I mean, you made JFR's cool again.
Well, thank you.
Well, like you said, a majority of the Aganorsa smoker smokes JFRs, but your audience, right? The people who followed your career, the vocal majority, like you said, or vocal minority rather, aren't JFR smokers. Maybe didn't even realize it existed, didn't even understand it, and you were able to educate that just by bringing some brand awareness. which is really
Yeah, I mean, Eduardo, I mean, likes me well enough, but I'm here, he brought me in for a purpose, and I take that seriously. I take that trust he placed in me very seriously, and so I'm here to, do the best job I can, and I jumped right in. So it was important that I wouldn't want him to ever feel like, oh man, why did I hire that guy? And so we're all only as good as our last day. So that kind of keeps, and we got a long way to go. I mean, we still have like a ton of awareness to build. We're entering world market more so now. Fabian's handling that. So there's more international awareness. We're growing there, but there's still a ways to go, and a lot of opportunity and things we could do better. And we're just trying to get a little bit better every day.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Fabian. And I think you might have obviously just answered the question, but I mean, I wasn't worried necessarily, like in the point of like, oh no, this isn't good. I mean, I was really glad to see you guys brought him on. I love that Fabian's back, full time back in the industry.
Yeah.
It's guys like that, guys like you. That's two amazing acquisitions for Aganorsa Leaf in the last half decade. I mean, you guys really, you know, and I know you would never say this, Terence. This is me talking, but like, I mean, both of you really hoisted your, respective brands that you came from on your shoulders, and you carried a lot of weight, and you made a lot of difference making Quesada and Drew Estate respectively, like really, household names, in the last 15 years. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I think it's super impressive. But so anyway, to boil it down to my question was, what role, or how does he differ? Because Fabian did exactly what you did at Drew Estate. What you're doing now. So like, what's the difference in role, and how do you guys
have to
play
keep
together and stuff?
So a couple, like one thing is that when I joined the company, it was a lot smaller. So as time goes on, it gets harder to do. Like, so I was handling the sales, obviously, the marketing side, and on the sales side, you have retailers, and then you have, some. I don't handle. It's like Dion, for instance, or like Nick Melillo. They work with the factory. I'm not involved with them in any way, shape, or form. But there are private labels that I do work with, Black Star Lines, different companies that. So there's that, and then you also have the big guys, the catalog. It's funny how I'm old. I'm calling them catalog companies. That's not really, I think, but like so that and in most companies there's like a different person for all these things. When you're small, and then there's international, which I was kind of just doing to help the company. I wasn't, that wasn't really my job or responsibility, but like I would assist in bringing people in a little bit there as well. But as you grow, it's harder to do any of these things well when you're doing all of them. So I was on a trip with Ryan Poehler, who out of Texas. He's our rep out of Texas, and he had worked with Fabian for many years. He's very close with Fabian, and I have a very good relationship with Ryan. And I was kind of saying, man, we need to get somebody. I mean, it's just getting to the point where we're not going to grow if we don't have more people, and so he's like, I think Fabian would maybe be interested in coming back to the industry if you gave him a call. And so I called him, and we spoke. And again, he's very much of a guy. It's like, okay, what needs to be done? I would say we're similar in this way. It's like, I don't care really what I'm doing. I just let's get things done. Let's accomplish things. And so, he's going to definitely deal international. Like he's doing that. Like I said, some of the guys I knew a little bit prior to him coming on. So I had some relationships there, but he has way more international, because at Drew he did an international business, and so he's handling that, which is a blessing for me. And then he's going to be doing more of the kind of brick and mortar events and things. I'll still be doing some of those, but like he'll take some of that load from me. And again, he's been involved on the new Cuba project because of his experience there with that. And again, you have to have people who are good. You can't do it alone, and it's really a team effort. And he's a great team player. And if I always say, if I ever wanted to prevent people from being hired that were good because, out of concern for my job, I should be fired immediately. I'm not worried about my job. I feel I do a good job, and God forbid Eduardo ever decided, to throw me out the door. I think I could probably find a land somewhere safely. We're here to build this company and to make it as successful as possible. And you can't, prevent people from coming into that if that's what you want to do. And to be honest with you, when I hire somebody, one of the things I look for when I hire them is would I work for this person under different circumstances? Like, if this were the other way around, would I want to work for this person? And I think that's really important to say yes to that, because saying no, that's not a good sign in my opinion. So he's been a blessing to us, and he's been a huge benefit, helped us tremendously, and I couldn't be happier he's with us.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. I was really jazzed when you guys hired. Like I said, I was really pleased to see Fabian back in the industry. I think the industry is a better place with them, similar to like when you came over to Casa Fernandez at the time. Like I thought that was super exciting. That was not as long of a what's the word I'm looking for? Sabbatical.
Yeah. I had a short sabbatical.
But
Fabian was a smart one. He took a couple of years. He got rejuvenated himself.
Yeah, good stuff. I wanted to go back to something that we were talking about, because I think it's an interesting point of discussion. About how hard it is to launch a successful brand and line. And I might be totally misguided here, Terence, and I apologize. I'm not trying to be. It's just kind of an observation that I've made. But we were talking about JFR and talking about the 20 years that, the near 20 years that it's been on the market, and how it's become a humidor staple and everything. And you guys have launched several cigars since your time has started there, and several good cigars. Really good. The Guardian of the Farm is an example of that. I have those on hand, like in my humidor. Like they are like it's a weekly smoke for me. I really enjoy that cigar. But it's hard to kind of keep like momentum going. Obviously that the first year it was released, it popped up on the top 25 list. It was a pretty popular item for a while. I haven't seen much chatter about it lately. And similarly, the cigar that I'm smoking about, which was I felt really well received. The Cerberus was really well received when it was released like 18 months ago. But I'm just, I guess, is the momentum, is it holding the water that you expected it to? Am I completely off and I'm just not seeing it because I'm not looking in the right places unnecessarily?
So there's a couple of things to that. One is that, and this is another area that Fabian will be helpful in, is that I wouldn't say we've had as coordinated an effort to do things as ideally we would like. And so now we're kind of going to be quarterly concentrating on a couple lines of cigars, and so
Okay.
there will be marketing to support that. There'll be, obviously sales promotions to support that. The reps will have samples to support that. And there'll be more of kind of a concentrated effort on a quarterly basis on a brand to give it kind of, that boost on a consistent basis that a brand needs, no matter what most brands need at some point, to kind of keep giving it the boost. So in that point, we're addressing that. On the other side, you have to keep in mind is that like we live in a very small part of the cigar world, which is basically people that it's almost part of like their identity. And for those groups, they tend to want something new all the time. And so, yeah, when Cerberus comes out, they try Cerberus, they buy a box of Cerberus, and then the next month they're looking for whatever Steve Saka is coming out with, or Espinosa is coming out with, or Roma Craft is coming out with, or whatever. And so those groups are not, I think, totally indicative of where the brand is, because they kind of start trailing into whatever the new thing is. Everyone wants to smoke the new thing that comes out. And what you have to do is you have to transition. You have to ride that wave, and then you have to transition into the other
market
the next yeah, the next segment, which is people that smoke consistently, enjoy cigars, have a rotation of cigars that they smoke, and kind of they're not on blogs, and they're not like there's a cigar bar near where I live that I hang out. I try. Well, I've become the rep there, but like I just go there to enjoy myself. I'm not there to like push people to smoke Aganorsa, because I don't want to be the guy that, oh, here he comes, he's gonna be trying to sell his cigars to me or whatever. I just want to go there and relax, and I want to have a good time with these guys. And the good part, I mean, the experience has shown me that like there's so many people that really just go in the humidor and they buy one or two things that they like, and they never really ever smoke anything else unless somehow like the circumstances align where something gets in their hands, they really enjoy it, and then that falls into the rotation as well. And so that is really the harder part, is getting to those guys, which once you do, gives you that kind of stability for your brand, because they're not interested in the story. They're not really interested. They kind of, as long as it doesn't look like something offensive to them in terms of the name, like if you called it the Joe Biden cigar, the Donald Trump cigar, or whatever, like that would inherently turn some people off one way or the other.
Polarizes some people, yeah, for sure.
But as long as it doesn't do that, and they like the flavor of it, they enjoy the cigar, and it's the right size for them, like they'll start smoking that, and then they won't even like discuss it otherwise. Like they'll just go in there. And so it's been interesting to see how like there are guys there that I've turned on to Aganorsa, and some of them, they just go and they buy Aganorsa. They never ask me any questions about it. They never ask me like how long we've been making it, or what's coming out new, or like oh, what's the blend, or they're just not, they just like it, and that's it. Yeah, and there are guys that like there's one guy, this guy Matt, that like he smokes La Flor Dominicana, and a couple times he's been there when we've had an event or something like that, and he'll buy one just to support, but he goes back to his La Flor, and that's what he smokes. And like I always joke with Carney, I'm like, man, you I can't get this guy, you got to send him a gift. But like I always try not to be too swayed by what I see in the area where we are right now, which is people that like, which is my favorite part and the most fun part, but is not really indicative of the market overall. I mean, there are brands that, if you look at how many people do you know smoke Romeo and Juliet or Reserva Real that are in like what we do? Not that many, right?
Yeah.
They're selling tons of those things. I mean, like there's, because that's an even further market penetration of guys that smoke twice a year. They go golfing and they buy their Romeo Reservas, Now, again, that's not that many cigars, but there's way more people that are like that than people that consistently smoke cigars. So those 100,000 to a million, whatever number of people it is that have the occasional cigar, when they buy them, they're going to those brands that they know every single time. And so you've got to really, it takes a lot of work to get that deep into the market. And so we're working on that. And I'd say we've had some success, but like that's where the long-term success comes. There's very few cigars that can basically live on the demographic of the, and I use this word lovingly, I consider myself one, the cigar nerd. And if you even look at like, some of the popular guys that really are really dominant in that market, I mean, they have models that wouldn't be sustainable for a large audience. Like I always use Viaje as an example. Like Viaje comes out with, he repeats some projects, his Halloween stuff and his holiday series, Christmas, and things like that. Yeah, but like it's a different blend. It's a different side. Like that works for that group because they want something new every time, or whether it's a cigar club that provides a new thing every month, or certain companies are more geared towards that. They're smaller. It's a couple people. We have a factory that we have to keep running. We can't live off of consumers that are purely looking to try new things all the time. Which I I totally understand. I like to try new things all the time, but like I said, I'm not indicative of the average consumer, and neither are any of us.
Yeah, I'm certainly not either.
That was a long answer, but that was more or less what.
That totally makes sense. Like I said, again, I think that it's really important to delineate, and I think that even my audience wouldn't get this, that there's Facebook cigar popular, and then there's actual numbers and metrics popular. And to your point, like JFRs keeps the lights on, it keeps you employed, it pays you every year. It's the reason that Aganorsa Leaf is in its existence, right? But
that group too is also like we have the Aganorsa Acolytes group. I mean, that brings enthusiasm. That brings people that are passionate. Those people tell other people to try Aganorsa. So it's a super important group, and that group provides the kind of the blast that can allow you to get into those other realms. So I'm not taking anything away with it.
Right.
We spend a lot of time in making sure to engage those consumers and make them feel part of it and make sure they realize how important they are to our success.
Right.
But like it just doesn't stop there. Like it has to go beyond that.
Well, framing the question this way then, Terence, like, has Cerebras penetrated the market the way that you guys expected it to?
Well, we don't know yet, to be honest with you. It's only been out like when did it come out? It came out in 22. Right? Yeah, so 18 months. So it continues to sell. We continue to ship it every month. We'll have, like I said, this year we're going to have more of a concentrated effort, and where that is important is that there are a lot of stores that there's some stores that are not interested in really necessarily the fact that it's new. In fact, some stores, a lot of stores dislike new things, even when they realize or they feel it's important to their business, and they actively search out new things. There's always kind of like a frustration, because they're putting something in, they order, it sells a few times, and then the guy's looking for something else. That's why Lanceros are a tough business for most people, is that Lancero smokers, they'll buy a box, but then they want the next Lancero. And so it's hard to run a business kind of operating on like having a new thing every month as a retailer. So
yeah,
even the stores that do embrace it, kind of, I think a lot of them, would prefer to have, not to have it that way if they had a choice.
Makes sense.
So that concentrated effort allows you to go in and be like, listen, we're promoting this. This is, we'll give you an introductory, deal on it so you can get it in the hands of your consumers. We're going to do an event for it so we can introduce it to them and discuss, these things. And I think that will help all our brands, further, if they're there to some degree already, further penetrate, or if they're not, to get in.
Okay. It's interesting. I'm really excited to see what some of these brands do long term, because again, the backbone, I feel like the backbone of Aganorsa Leaf has been, again, leaning on its makeup, the whole leaf is our strength thing. Like, I think that's letting the cigar kind of speak for itself, in a lot of ways. And I think that the approach has been good for you for a while. The one that I've been concerned about, I was so excited about the cigar, Terence, and for whatever reason, it just never hit my palate, or I just never had the smoking experience that I really wanted with it, because I was so excited about the tobacco, the wrapper with it. And so there was the Guardian of the Farm, Night Watch. And I think that cigar is still doing pretty well for you. But I mean, has it surpassed the original Guardian of the Farm, or even the Cerebras, or is it holding steady? Like, again, I mean, that was a cigar
the original one had a top 10 rating. So that, again, that is something that gets you into hands that otherwise you don't get into. So there's the guys that read the list and they go out and buy everything on the list. There's still people that still do that. And so like you have an opportunity inherently with that to get into a deep. So the original line is still overall the most successful. But the others continue to sell. And like I said, one of the things we've done, is we've tried to be a little bit like this past year. We really didn't have, the 10 by 100 was a small, ultimately in the drop in the bucket of things. It was 2,500 sticks. We had the Anniversarial Connecticut, which was just 2 sizes. We had the Rare Leaf Maduro, which is only for select accounts, so there's a limit to how many people even have access to that. Because you have to spend a lot of time building these things. It just takes time to get it. Again, even like one of the things that like we've never been big with, Eduardo would always say our money goes to the tobacco, but it's swag, for instance. I mean, like, and so we recently did some Cerberus swag, the shirts and things like that, because there's people that's what they really like. They like that, they like that stuff, and they want that. And again, as I said, as you go deeper into the market, to penetrating the market, you have to, like, you're not going to get those people without that stuff, if you want them, and so you have to have these things. And so there, like I said, we're putting a more concerted effort to like move beyond and really it's more crucial than ever for that, because with COVID was a situation which will probably never happen again in our lifetime, or at least you probably hope for the sake of society, is that people had nothing. They literally had nothing to do except drink and smoke and maybe build a deck in their yard or whatever. And so you have a person that, let's say they, after work a couple times a week, they stopped off at their cigar bar or cigar lounge and they had a cigar or two. So you're talking about a guy that went from, let's just say, 3 to 6 cigars a week, and now he's sitting at home with a government check. He can't go on vacation. He can't go to a restaurant. He can work from home, and now he's smoking 3, 4, 5 cigars a day. What percentage increase is that? That's what you're talking, 1,000% increase.
Yeah. It's nuts.
So that's totally unsustainable now that we're more similar to a normal environment. So whoever you have, whether you have a million people or you have 1,000 people or whatever it is, either have less time or less money, or both. And so they can't consume or purchase the way they did during COVID. So the only way to combat that is to acquire more people to make up for it. And so our goal this year and our goal last year was, we need more people. We need to have more people that are enjoying validating Aganorsa. And that's been successful. Again, we were, our proprietary brands again were up last year, which, to be honest with you, it was probably the smallest increase that we've had since I've been with the company. But honestly, I'm most proud of it, because how it takes a lot of work just to keep your number when you have to make up 10 cigars per customer almost, per week. Think about that. How many people do you have to bring in to your brand to compensate for that? So we're doing it. We're growing. We just have to keep on it and keep penetrating into the market for more deeply.
Yeah, I think I really like the approach that you guys are taking, because again, like you talked about the what's new crowd. And I think a lot of manufacturers, unfortunately, kind of bend to that point a lot, and that's why we see new releases constantly. And that's not to say that you guys haven't. You've had quite a few new releases since you started with the company, But I think the approach that may be different is you guys are looking at this more long term. You're looking at this. You're not looking at the next quarter. You're looking at the next 36, the next 36 months. You're looking at the next,
like the new Cuba Superior. That's going to be a slog. You've got to get that in people's mouths, and the consumer that will smoke that is a hard customer to kind of get. So that's going to take a lot of work to really make that. I think it's going to be successful, but I think it's going to take more work than it will take if we come out with some limited edition thing that there's among our core group there's an immediate appeal for. And so you've got to take that approach again. And we've built our company on, it's not a cult of personality company. It's not a lifestyle company. It's about the tobacco. It's about the signature flavor we have. But you have to market that properly. Again, I haven't created any blends here. Like I haven't like brought in some new tobacco that they weren't using before,
Right.
from somewhere, and then suddenly everybody liked the cigars more or something like that because of that. Like the growth has been from the engagement, from the education, from these types of things. The best cigar you've never heard of is one you don't smoke. And if you don't relate to it, you don't smoke it either. You smoke it one time and you go, oh, that was a good cigar. And then you move, what else you got? And so like the process is brand recognition. If they've never heard of it, they don't smoke it. Brand understanding, they've got to understand it, and see them and identify with it in some way, is something that appeals to them. And then brand passion, where they're actively going out and like saying, hey, Barry, I just had this from Aganorsa. You've got to try it. And so we want to like, and so, again, some of those are long-term things. And sometimes we make a change. Again, Coop is always like, you change the packaging. If we see we can do it better, I don't see we're not going to say, oh, well, we only changed this 2 years ago. We'll just keep it that way. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like just keep. And then if you don't have to, or if that change won't help, then yeah, of course that doesn't make any sense. But if you can make an adjustment that will improve the the brand understanding or the brand passion or be more enticing to awareness or whatever it is, let's do that. Let's not say, oh well, it's not been long enough, we can't do that yet. Let's make adjustments to the extent that we need to make them right away. But the approach is overall is long term. You have to give it the time. I mean, it takes a while to get people to kind of fall into
try something new.
Not and then not only try it, but then to try it again, and then come to understand it, and then come to really be an active supporter of it. That is a process. And so I think we've done a good job, but yeah, there's a long ways to go.
Yeah, I think the hard that it's from, because I mean, as you know, Terrence, I worked retail for a long time. The easiest sale was always the first one.
Yeah,
it's getting that customer to come back and, like you said, remember the cigar, pinpoint the cigar, because I'm not always going to be there. Not that I was the only one that worked in the shop, mind you, but I'm not always going to be there to remember, like, hey, remember the Cerebras? You like that cigar? Like, go ahead and go back to it. It's creating that repeat smoker.
Yeah, the retailer, all he can do is basically provide access. One, he has to have it in the store, and then two, if preferably, and that's a partnership with getting the employees to try it and explaining to them and talking about it and everything like that, and making sure it's a cigar that's right for their store and right for their staff and everything like that. There's all those things that you have to do. But beyond that, then it's on us, really. I mean, it's our responsibility to get that person back after you've introduced it to them. So that's not an easy thing. It takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes a lot of touches for that kind of transformation to occur.
Sure. Well, Terrence, thank you so much for kind of going back a little bit this year and kind of reviewing some of the things. And again, with the recent past, and again, reading on the show, we've got some fun questions to conclude our evening coming up, and we got plenty of show left. I mean, we're not going anywhere, but we do have some of our fun questions that we'd like to get to, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some more Aganorsa stuff here in just a few moments. But we'll go ahead and kick things off with our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigar. Don't worry, Terrence, it's multiple choice, but hey, we're talking about history. It's not like you don't have any background there, so you certainly do. So this is going to be right up your alley.
There's a lot of history, though. Keep that in mind.
True, it's true. Well, I think you'll appreciate the subject matter and the question itself. So it's always brought to you by United Cigars, which is featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabade, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke once a day and start living united. So, Terrence, one of our presidents was very, very well-read individual, much like you. Thomas Jefferson loved to read. It was his favorite and greatest pastime. And education was big with him. This is a guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he still to this day, obviously to this day being dead, but Yeah, I mean, on his gravestone, one of his proudest things was he was the first president of the University of Virginia. So he valued education. And
read a lot of Tacitus too.
yes. So here's the trivia question for you. What language did Jefferson prefer to read in? Was it A, German? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. You wait.
No. You go on. Now give me choices.
Okay. A, German.
Yeah.
B, Latin. C, English. D, Gaelic. Or E, French. So German, Latin, English, Gaelic, or French.
It's Latin or French. I'm gonna go. I know you read Latin because you read Tacitus, and in fact, a lot of the political theory of the revolution is from the Republic. I'm gonna say French, but it could be Latin.
Oh man, you should have gone with it. The classic. It's Latin.
It's Latin. He preferred to read in Latin, huh?
Correct. Yes, he preferred to read in Latin. Yeah. So he did have a nice little quote. I love reading this quote regarding our good friend Bill Shakespeare that we mentioned earlier. Thus, the lively and lasting sense of duty is more effectually impressed on the mind of a son or daughter by reading King Lear than by all the dry volumes of ethics and divinity that have ever been written. I thought that was an incredible insight. So read more Shakespeare to your kids, everybody. That's what he said.
Yeah. When Kennedy had the Nobel Prize winners to the White House, he said there hasn't been this much intelligence here since Jefferson.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah. I love this. I'll share. This will be in the show notes and everything. But I loved looking this up. There's this website called Get Action, and it's there's the preferred reading list, the recommended reading list by Thomas Jefferson. It's quite a lengthy list, but I think you'd appreciate being the classics and everything. So Herodotus, Theostocles, Caesar, Josephus, Tacitus, as you mentioned, the Annals and Histories by Tacitus is on this list.
Thucydides?
Yes. Plato, Cicero, the works of Cicero, Morals by Plutarch, Seneca, moral epistles and essays by Seneca, John Locke. So I mean,
it's a good reading list.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. Like I was like, Jesus, man. So like, I mean, that's just some of the ancient classic stuff. The literature and epic poetry and plays, it goes back, Homer, Virgil, John Milton, Euripides, Horace, of course, Bill Shakespeare's on there. Interesting. He was a big fan of Jonathan Swift, which I thought was interesting.
The Irishman.
Yeah, it seemed a little whimsical for him. A little bit more entertaining, I suppose. Like again, he concentrated so much on more like logical pieces and everything like that. But apparently was a big fan of Jonathan Swift, and also loved Don Quixote, which is actually kind of fitting. He was kind of an idealist, obviously. So that's kind of very quixotic character, very So that's very much Thomas Jefferson. So I thought that was pretty appropriate too. But also loved the Canterbury Tales apparently too. So I mean this guy read Chaucer all the fucking time, man. I mean he invented the Lazy Susan.
Yeah, that's right. He had one in Monticello. He's got one at Monticello.
Yeah, so he could read multiple books at once. It wasn't for pass the spices, please. I want the salt. So he was, no, it was about reading books.
You have to keep in mind that the reason people read is that in northern climates, at least, there was nothing to do between like November and April.
Right.
So you had a lot of time to kind of dedicate to reading, which is, it's a difficult art. You look at a bunch of letters and that forms words, and words turns into thoughts, and it's not an easy writing is not easy. And, to be a good reader is not easy either.
Did you enjoy writing, Terence? Like, again, I know you had to write a lot of papers, obviously, and some of your airport posts notwithstanding. So you do enjoy writing. Okay.
I love writing. I would have, I wish I had more time to dedicate to it. It's the airport posts and things like that are kind of like just a fun thing to like, because you can write that in a few minutes or whatever. And like writing is very difficult, and like anything worth doing, if you to do it well is really a full-time job, or would require more time and dedication than I currently have. But I do enjoy it.
Have you thought, I mean, given your backgrounds, your expertise, your talent, I mean, have you thought about writing a history of cigars, or even like even more narrow, maybe a history of, Eduardo and his family or something? I mean, because there's got to be some fascinating things with just that family. Not to say that I mean, the entire industry, of course, in its whole would be a fascinating history.
Yeah, I'm less interested in kind of the the factual history. Not that I don't enjoy reading that sometimes, but like I wouldn't necessarily want to write about that, kind of like A happened, then B happened, then C happened, that kind of thing. Even
less anthology, like more.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in kind of, the ideas behind things. I don't know if that would work as well with like a history of the cigar industry or something like that.
I mean, I think it could. I mean, an exploration into like why tobacco and not potatoes, or I mean, or some like that's a really elementary comparison, but like I don't know, that could be worth exploring too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you also, one, you have to be able to grow it, but also you have to keep in mind that if you look at what comes from the New World, sugar, tobacco, it's stuff that creates a high, for lack of a better term. It's
substance better, Terence. That's what it makes things better.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. But that I mean, once people start enjoying, whereas the potato, I guess you have to eat, so that stuff is important, but like a lot of it was simply that it was stuff that once people had, they wanted to have it again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even going back to like the East Indian Trade Company, I mean, tea was a hot commodity. So I mean, it's
okay. So
right?
Caffeine. So the third thing. So that's I forgot that one. Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting observation, interesting take. I think that. Well, I mean, I think if anyone would write it from that perspective, a little bit more analytical, to just put a blanket phrase on it. I mean, I'd be fascinated to read it from your perspective too, Terence.
And honestly, it would be even harder to do that, because and that kind of stuff, you really have to get your facts. So it require research, and I just don't have time for that stuff. But yeah, I do enjoy writing quite a bit, and in another life I would have done that.
Maybe your golden years, maybe a golden years retirement.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be the greatest day of our lives when we read that book.
Absolutely. So, greatest day of our whole lives.
What do you have? Again, being in the history background there, again your view of history is list about dates, and in fact, probably you and I have a very different appreciation of history. I think. I do get lost in the facts and the connections and the connecting of the dots and stuff like that. I think you look at it from a more like peel back the layers approach, like in layers and layers and layers. You really kind of want to get into, which I freaking love. I think that's awesome. But who's your favorite president? Do you have one? Have you thought about it, or is that too elementary of a question?
No. Yeah. I don't know if favorite is the right word. I think Nixon is super interesting. Nixon is a really interesting guy, which is more recent history. If you look at him, he was an amazing politician. He quite frankly probably actually won the 60. They talk about election fraud. Oh, I mean, Kennedy, they were stuffing ballots like crazy in Chicago. They made a deal with the mob and everything, and so it was the closest election. I don't know if it's still the closest election ever, but at the time it was the closest election ever. Loses the governorship of California. He's kind of basically politically dead. comes back. And again, Nixon is responsible. I mean, for the EPA, there would have been national health care under Nixon. Ted Kennedy actually rejected the deal, ironically.
Wow.
There was, so he I mean, he opens China. He's to me, he's a fascinating president in the sense that he got a lot done, whether you like him or not. Like, but like the two presidents that probably got the most
hated guy. I mean, outside of, I'm not going to talk about most of the recent politics because that's a little too recent.
Let's not even talk about recent politics.
Well, no, and history can't judge that yet. That's been my my point about Biden and Trump and even Obama. It's too young.
It's recent history.
It's too recent for history to judge it properly. Like
there's an apocryphal story about like a Chinese ambassador was asked what they thought about the French Revolution, and they said, and it was like, I think it was like 100 years after the revolution or something, or 50 years, and he said, too soon to tell. I don't think that's actually a true story, but
it's relevant. It's relevant.
It illustrates the point well, that you don't know what the significance of things are until a lot of times long after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can, again, even Nixon is recent too in that aspect. But yeah, it's the point I was going to make is he is the most hated president in history, but like everyone's judged on his greatest error, his greatest mistake, rather than what his presidency actually.
I mean, he was also, it's another thing that he wasn't again, if you look at, to use somebody on the other side that's kind of similar, is Lyndon Johnson, LBJ again, like Great Society. I mean, he passed like people talk about like Kennedy really didn't do anything. I mean, he wasn't president that long. He got killed only in his third year, but he didn't there was really nothing that he did. Like the two presidents that kind of did the most of the past, other than from Roosevelt on, because Roosevelt did a lot of stuff, but from Roosevelt on, the two presidents that really did the most was really, in terms of passing legislation and doing like really heavy changes to government and everything, is Nixon and Johnson, and neither one they weren't popular. They weren't charismatic people. They didn't have that kind of that charisma that
Kennedy did, or Clinton, or things like that.
Or Reagan, or and so I find both of those presidents interesting presidents. Again, if those are more modern. I mean, for the founding fathers, Jefferson's obviously a really interesting guy. I like him a lot. Andrew Jackson's an interesting guy. Jackson, he threatened to hang John C. Calhoun for trying to secede. He had been in duels. He had a bullet above his heart.
Exactly. Beat a would-be assassin almost to death. People pulled the president off of a guy. The guy was going to kill the president, who happened to be Andrew Jackson. He's beating him to death with a cane, and people are pulling Jackson off of him. It's my favorite fucking story. It's great. It's an all-time classic.
Lincoln's a great Lincoln's. I studied Nixon. Lincoln a lot. Lincoln is really a fascinating president. He's really cool. There's a lot of guys that are, a lot of presidents are interesting.
I love this part of history. I've mentioned this before, but Oliver Nouveau, who come up with this concept, obviously, he asked me, he's like, Bear, what is that? He's like, you know all this stuff about presidents. Like, what is your fascination with it? I was like, it really goes into the fact, it really boils down to the fact that these are fascinating men that are just in history, that just, I mean, they're probably some of the most fascinating men in our country's history, simply because, I mean, they're just such unique characters and individuals, and the way that they shaped our country to what it is today, like it or not.
Van Buren, his first language was Dutch.
Was Dutch, yes, absolutely. Yep. Chester Arthur, it's even question about if he was even eligible to be president, if he was actually born in America.
Yeah.
Just crazy stuff. Like, mean, the most polarizing people in our nation's history, because every day they woke up and half the country hated them and half of them loved it. You know?
Do you remember the president? I can't remember who it is now, but you could say something in English and he could write with in one hand in ancient Greek and the other hand in Latin. You could translate it.
Oh, yes.
Who is it? Is it Hayes? No,
it wasn't Hayes.
He's in the 1800s. I can't remember. I can't remember who it is now.
It might have been Arthur. Oh gosh.
Yeah, maybe it was Arthur.
Yes, I think it was Arthur, actually. I might be wrong about that too, but yeah, but I think that's right. I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah, fascinating, just fascinating individuals with just incredible, incredible skill sets and stuff. And I mean, the three of the most, I think, the bottom of the barrel, like Nixon, Jackson, Warren G. Harding, like all just like, I mean, Warren G. Harding was the most corrupt person to ever take office. I mean,
you said Nixon, Harding, and who was the third? Who was the other one you said?
Jackson.
Jackson.
I mean, they're just, yeah. I mean, the way, especially with Jackson, I mean, just like some of the things about him in particular are just very despicable.
It's fun. Well, also you have to remember it's a different period of time. I mean, Nixon's more recent, but like it's funny that he's on a $20 bill. He hated the concept of federal money. Like,
yes, that's ironic. Yeah,
he didn't like. Again, I think at the end of the day, even the worst president, it's very difficult to become president, and it's a very difficult position.
Right. Exactly.
And like, I actually, again, so you said Nixon is, but like, you're talking about their effectiveness as president, or you're talking about their character as being the bottom of the barrel. Okay.
Character. Yeah.
No.
Like, yeah.
But so like, again, Nixon, like if like the best politicians are usually not great people. If you look at like British politics, like Disraeli was kind of, he wasn't like a great, but he was a great politician. Like Bismarck.
Well, and his rival Gladstone, they were both terrible people.
well, I don't know. Gladstone kind of, he took it very seriously. He was religious. I mean, again, whether you like his views or not, but he was very serious about the position and like what he believed, and he was like, whereas Disraeli was kind of like a real politic guy, like Bismarck. Bismarck literally said, they're like, what do you attribute? I don't know what the exact question was, but it was something along like what do you attribute England in success to her? And he says he said it's the Jew, who referring to Disraeli. And so if you look at a lot of the best politicians, they weren't the nicest people, because if you're not a dictator, you have to get other people to go along with what you do, which means sometimes being on one side and sometimes Cicero. I think his brother either writes to him or he writes to his brother. I can't remember, but like, it's this thing about running for office, and it's like, promise everything. Like, if you can if you can keep those promises, great. If not, people have short memories. He has this like whole thing about like running for office.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like or how they would bring it, like, Cicero was the most famous like Roman lawyer of his day. Again, he would bring in, like, if he was defending somebody, he would bring in like a fake family from the street and pay them to cry about like, oh, my father and everything. So like, I don't know if being like the most moral person is necessarily helps you for the job, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people have been really good presidents or been effective presidents. Again, whether you believe what they were doing was right, but they were able to implement it. Like they were able to do something. Like we're like a Carter was like not a good guy, but like got nothing done, and it was basically a disaster. So, you can, sometimes it's interesting how,
Well, I think that goes to show there's this like that's, again, history judges character and history judges success and failure in a very different construct. And they forget that I think people forget, and this is even relevant to today when, with the whole, cancel culture and things like that, people forget that people are human. And leaders and the leaders, especially, historical leaders, are just, they have terrible flaws. Even people that are widely regarded. I mean, like their things said about Gandhi. Holy shit. Martin Luther
Gandhi was
King.
he was
Martin Luther
terrible,
King
by the
Jr.
way. Gandhi, by the way, and a lot of
Yeah.
Indians don't even like Gandhi, by the way. He like Christopher Hitchens, his last essay before he dies is like an anti-Gandhi essay about how he like destroyed India, and which he had a lot of. Number one, he wanted to be called Mahatma, which means great spirited. Imagine imagine a U.S. president being like, I want to be called great spirited. Like that should be my name. Like he was mad at the president of Pakistan, whose name slips my mind, because he wouldn't refer to Gandhi that way. And then he just wanted like to not have. He basically was like a peaceful ISIS. He wanted to go back to like a time that didn't exist. He wanted to get rid of technology. He like birth control. It was abstinence. His whole worldview. He called Hitler his friend. He wrote Hitler letters saying, "My friend." You like all this like. He's like
shit. Yeah,
he was not a good leader. Like like India had so many terrible problems because of him, but because they like his his moral viewpoint, like that he has this reputation of kind of like this saint or whatever. But he wasn't. He wasn't a great leader of India. And again, if you ask a lot of Indians, especially like Sikhs and things like that, like they hate him. Like they don't like him at all. So yeah. Again, you can't. I always say like we're doing stuff right now that in 100 years people are going to be like, those guys were a bunch of scumbags. Like, well, can you believe that they were eating animals, or that they drove gasoline powered or whatever? I'm just throwing stuff out there. Like, so you think that like in 1760 you would have been the guy that was like a modern person back then, that you would have like had all these views that we have today? You wouldn't have been that way. You not you, but like the people that kind of like have this view of the past they weren't like how we are now, so therefore they're bad or whatever.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think the reason people followed the likes of Jefferson, Adams, Washington, Hank, I love the story about John Hancock. It will just because, I mean, talk about a guy after his own self-interest. I mean, he was not a revolutionary. He did not hate the British. The reason he hated the British government is because of taxation, because he was a businessman. Cost him a lot of money.
Which, by the way, the taxing wasn't even really unreasonable.
It wasn't, like, comparatively speaking. They paid higher taxes in England. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was basically to fund the French-Indian War, which was fought basically to benefit the colonists. Like,
yeah.
Like a lot. I mean, it's kind of I think I've heard number like only like 30% of people supported the revolutionaries. It wasn't like there was like everyone was like, it wasn't like the whole country rose up. There was tons of loyalists and people that were like, why would we want to leave England? It's great, so again, you get to look back and you get to judge, but it's a different story when you're there.
Well, yeah, I mean the First Continental Congress, was like they were basically, I mean it's a heralded place now in history, and we've set up a shrine to it, but like it was at the time it was a broom closet, man. It was just guys getting together and putting together a Declaration of Independence. I still think, I mean, Jefferson did a brilliant job. I think it's the greatest piece of American writing, and you probably can disagree with that given your background, but I think it's the greatest piece of American writing history. But that notwithstanding, I mean, it was still done, with a group of a very much of a minority, like you said, 30%. I mean, that's that's insane, to think about it from perspective. So yeah, good stuff. Well, that was, I mean, we digressed a few times. We even got a Gandhi reference in there, but that was really great. This was the president.
You brought him up. I
did. Yeah, no, all fault to me. This is what I love about this question. It just the segment goes everywhere, which is great. This was the presidential trivia segment, which was always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Ivana, the distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So Terence, this next segment is our rapid fire segment. I call it this or that. Very simple. I give you two things and you pick one. So nothing too nuts here. So some of these are cigar related. Some of these have some stuff to do. Some of these are just random. But wanted to kind of go through stuff here. So here we go. So Jack London or Stephen Crane? go-to American novelist for those of you people out there that don't know this?
In terms of who's better, or who
who do you prefer? It's up to your interpretation. Who do you like to read? Who do you think's better? Like, however you want to characterize.
I'll say Jack, not because I think he's a better writer, but because I think it's kind of like a nice, a true American writer is Jack London.
Yeah. Do you have so you said you don't think he's a good writer?
No, not that I don't think he's good. He's not like a great writer. I mean, he's a young kids writer. I read like The Call of the Wild and White Fang when I was a kid, but they're not like, great works of American literature.
Okay. Well, here's two satirists for you, but two very different people. And I think I know the answer, but I thought it'd be interesting anyway. Voltaire or Mark Twain?
Oh, Mark Twain.
Oh God, I love you, Terence. Fantastic. Okay, going into cigars now. Figurado or Lancero?
Figurado.
Okay, that's interesting to me. I know you mentioned Lanceros earlier. Figurados.
I like Lanceros.
I have a love-hate relationship with Figurados. I feel like.
I think Figurados are more kind of. I think you get kind of like people always say, Lancero is the complexity of Lancero and the different. I think the Figurado is equally difficult to make, and I think it's kind of a cigar that requires like a patience. You got to wait for it to open up, unless you cut off the end, which I don't agree with. But you got to get that moment where suddenly it opens. It's that really nice moment where that draw, it just gets you get through the taper, and so I'll say a Figurado.
I know Skip was in the chat a few minutes ago, but like I still characterize the Neanderthal as a Figurado. I think a Figurado is a very general word for like just oddly shaped cigar.
Yeah, I'm talking about a more traditional one, but I guess there could be. Yeah, you're right. There could be a lot of I guess I was really thinking Perfecto because anything a torpedo is a Figurado. I guess
Yeah.
So,
but like the I always said like the Neanderthal ends up popping open like at the very like after the first couple of puffs because of that the way that it's
it's slight taper there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I like that. I like how it suddenly opens. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I think I have a love-hate with it because for so long, when I first got into smoking, 20 plus years ago now, God, I'm getting old. But when I started, everyone was making, that was when torpedoes were all the rage. Everyone was making a torpedo and not everyone made torpedoes well. And a lot of them sucked. And
Manolo, my uncle, that was always his favorite. He likes the torpedo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had that conversation when I had him on. I had him on for my 250th take. He did that. It was like 4:00 in the morning. He was in Spain, and he's like, yeah, I'll get up and I'll do the show with you. And I was like, okay. It was a great conversation, but we talked about that. We talked about his favorite Vitola. It's nuts. But next up, here we go. Straight cut or V cut?
Yes, I would say straight cut. Just because it's the safest cut. Basically that's how kind of cigars were always cut and kind of intended to be. Although I like the V, I have no problems with the V cut. I'll usually, if I do a V cut though, I'll do the double cut. I'll do one way and then the other way. But I have nothing against the V cut. But if I have to pick one, I'd say the straight cut.
I straight cut everything. I always have. I was surprised when I first learned this. John McTavish of Developing Palates, he speaks V cut on it.
Good old John, a good Canadian.
V-cut. Yeah, V cut everything. I was really, really surprised by that. I don't know why, but yeah, he V cuts everything.
The first time I saw V cut was actually in Canada. That they had that. Who was it? Calibri, I think they had that
deep
big
cut. Yeah,
DV. I don't know if that was the first time I saw it, but that cutter was super popular up there when I was there, and that was the first time I think I had really seen at least the deep V cut. I don't know if I'd seen that before.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it was a popular Canadian thing.
Maybe. Yeah, might be it. Okay, so your khakis have to go, and this is different. So
blasphemy.
Dress pants or shorts. So dress pants being something that goes with a suit, not khakis. So your suit pants or shorts.
Dress pants. I grew up in New England, and it was an adjustment. Just to be honest with you, when I first started, I wore suits, but like a lot of the country, you'd go and they'd be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you dressed this way? They thought it was kind of weird. And New England, it's still common to, the Northeast and Chicago area, but like for a lot of the country, kind of being decked out all the time, is weird. So I wanted to create a more kind of, I guess, universal look that wasn't milk toast. It was milk toast and kind of not appealing to anybody. So the khakis and the polo took over.
Yeah. Well, if you were dressed in suits all the time, they either thought you worked for Nat Sherman or Nick Perdomo, I guess. So that was probably confusing.
Yeah.
So okay. So speaking of your signature look, the polo and khakis, one has to go. Which one are you tossing?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I think the khakis. As much as I love the khakis, the polo is really just a wonderful shirt. It's comfortable, looks a little dressy, but not too dressy. You can almost go in any environment with a polo shirt. It's always kind of acceptable.
Okay. Red Sox or Pats?
Now, I would, as a kid, it was definitely Red Sox. I would say now more the Pats between the two. Just because it's easier to follow the Patriots. It's one game a week. I don't have time to watch 162 games of baseball, and I don't have the connection with the players I had when I was a kid. When I was a kid, if I missed the either watching or attending 5 games a year, that was a lot. I mean, up from the time I was about 10 till my early 20s, I didn't miss games. I mean, I saw every game, and then the same thing with the Bruins. I would see every Bruins game. So when I was younger, it went it went to Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, Celtics, and to be honest with you, as a very young kid, I liked the Dolphins. My father's from Miami. Yeah. So I always liked the Dolphins too. So the Patriots were third, but as time has gone on, and I have less time to kind of follow these things the way I used to. Patriots number one now.
Okay, so I want to take a sidebar real quick. So I mean, I think because I think you're a couple years younger than me, maybe.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
Oh no, I'm older. I'm 40. I'll be 43 this year.
Oh really? Okay, I thought for some reason you were younger.
Thank you though.
You're welcome. Okay, so this question might be appropriate. What? This is the greatest to me. This is the greatest mystery because then he at the end of his career he went and played international for a couple seasons and then he was done. What the hell happened with Mike Greenwell? Why didn't he have why didn't he have a longer career? He was a great player.
He swung at the first pitch too much. He loved swinging at that first pitch.
Well, his batting certainly did reflect it.
And he got injured a lot towards he started to get injured a lot. Okay. His last couple of years he was injured. But it's funny. He was my favorite player as a kid.
Oh, that's
my favorite. I heard him hit an inside the park grand slam against the Yankees on the radio. I remember because I didn't have NESN as a kid. So not when I was very young. When I got older, I had it. But when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, we didn't have NESN, and so the NESN games I heard on the radio, and I heard him. He hit for the cycle. He should if Canseco didn't do steroids, he was the MVP for I think it was 88 that Canseco was the MVP, but he was number 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. He was I don't know, he's a fantastic player, man. I mean, if Wade Boggs isn't on that team in those years, like he's the most popular Red Sox, I think.
He was my favorite player.
Yeah. Really well liked. I really liked him as a kid.
I can name that whole starting lineup for 1990. It was Ellis Burks in center, Tom Bernansky in right, Greenwell was in left, Carlos Quintana was at first base, Jody Reed at second, Luis Rivera at short, Wade Boggs was at third. The catcher was Tony Pena. The starting rotation was Roger Clemens, Mike Boddicker, Greg Harris, and Tom Bolton. The closer was Jeff Reardon. Mike Gray was a middle reliever. I can name those whole teams.
It's a good squad, man. That was a good squad. The rotation could have had a little bit more depth. I think that's what probably played into.
Well, they were also in the era of the A's, who somehow didn't win more World Series, but that A's team is like absurd. You have Dave Stewart, Bob Welch won 28 games.
Yeah,
Ricky Henderson. If you pick if I had to do a fantasy baseball team and I'm drafting the number one pick, I'd probably take Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson had more steals than the entire Red Sox organization until like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's history, like from the time the Red Sox began until like 2012 or something. I forget what year it is.
Yeah,
Ricky Henderson had more stolen bases.
Yeah, it's stupid, just unbelievable. It's crazy. All right, going back to this or that here. Let's wrap this up here. We've got three more. Barbecue or Mexican food?
Barbecue.
Where do you like to enjoy barbecue? Memphis, Texas?
Texas, that Mesquite. Texas is the best barbecue, man. I love Texas the most.
See, this is why you're my favorite, Terrence. All right, fantastic. All right, your cheesesteak, peppers or no peppers?
I like peppers on my cheesesteak, but God, I don't even want to say anything about cheesesteaks between the cheesesteak Nazis out there. No, the thing with cheesesteaks is that whatever you do, like there's like a slew of people that attack you for it. If you go to this place, if you go to Pat's, they say that Pat's is the worst. You should go to Steve's. If you go to Steve's, they say, De Alessandro's. And if you say De Alessandro's, they say wherever, John's. And then whatever you put on there, you put whiz wit. Then they say you shouldn't do that or you should do that. So whatever you pick for cheesesteaks is a losing proposition.
You just go in and enjoy your sandwich and don't even talk about it.
Eat your meat sandwich in peace. That's all.
All right, last one, because I know you have a fondness for both. But beer or spirits?
Now that I'm older, I'd probably say spirits. It's but I still like beer quite a bit. But spirits at this stage is probably my preferred of the two. Although I still enjoy my beer. I like my New England hazy IPAs.
Yeah.
But and nice stout. So I still like beer. But it's as you get older, it fills you up, man. Like you have a couple of beers and you're kind of like, whereas
I don't drink as much beer as I used to, man. Like you said, if it's very filling. I found that my audience knows this. I'm gonna repeat this already for the fifth time, but like I just noticed to start jacking with my heart rate, man. Spirits, not so much. Like I can drink spirits and I'm fine, but beer started with jack with my heart rate, just like fuck it up. Like I guess it goes sky high for the rest of the day. But the last time we hung out socially, I was your guest at Clutch Burger, which was awesome. We had a few beers there. Haven't seen as many posts there, man. Have you been taking a break from Clutch Burger, or am I just not seeing it? You're just not...
No, you're very so my buddy that owned it, so he had a partner that it was his wife's sister's husband, who he's Venezuelan, and he during COVID kind of stepped away, but when COVID ended, he came back, and there was some I guess disagreements on how to take things forward, and so he sold his share of it, so he's not there anymore. He's doing some other stuff, and so I don't go as much since he's not there.
Okay, good. Loyalty, man. I get that. That's cool. All right. Well, that was this or that. So last few questions of the evening, Terrence. We got some more sponsored segments here. Speaking of food, speaking of Clutch Burger, this is our Everybody Eats segment, which was brought to you by Postania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. So, Terrence, I have a series of questions in this segment, but we always pick one. So I decided to go with this one. So what is a food or dish that you love that you probably would not have tried if you had not been offered or forced to by someone else?
Right, tongue. I've had lamb's tongue, which I really enjoy.
Lamb's tongue. Okay, so not lingua, not cow's tongue. So lamb's tongue.
Yeah, I had lamb's tongue, which was quite good.
Where did this take place? How did that happen?
So the Manolo Casada, he used to take me to this place called the Bass Club in Miami. It's not around anymore, but it's basically a bunch of Basque guys. We had a guy that worked for us who was Basque, and he would bring us there, and we used to eat there, and the meals were amazing. In fact, I knocked over my phone there. I mean, I'm so fond of the place that I just knocked my phone over.
So excited.
Yeah, and it was every meal, bacalao, codfish, like Spaniards can cook, man, and the Basque people especially, and it was just amazing food. And one time they had lamb's tongue, and they were kind of like, "Oh, you gotta try it," and I didn't want to kind of chicken out, so I tried it, and it was very good. That's one of the better things, that I had that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
How was it prepared? Like, what was it like? Or
it was honestly, I've only had it a couple times since then, because it's not a common thing that you see that often.
No kidding.
I can't remember. I can't remember how they did it, but I just remember. This is like going back, God, close to 15 years. So I can't remember exactly how they prepared it, but it was good. That, and another one is sweetbreads they use too. I know you asked for one. Sweetbreads, just I love sweetbreads, but like the thought of what it is a thalamus, and so it didn't sound like something that I would enjoy, but it's delicious.
Yeah, it is.
High
for sure.
High in cholesterol, but delicious.
Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. Well, that was our Everybody Eats segment, sponsored by Prostani Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postani Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. Now, Terence, this next one, this is how long it's been. You haven't participated in any of these segments, so this is interesting. This is kind of getting a first take on all of these from you. But our next segment is our Asylum moment. So it's always brought to you, of course, by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It could be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. So, Terence, this segment is about specifically with cigars. Now, obviously, you've traveled the world. Your job is to be around people, to get people excited about Aganorsa. You smoke a lot of cigars with a lot of people all the time. Even right now, well, you might be by yourself. We're sharing a cigar together, just virtually. So you're probably smoking a lot of time with other people. But every so often, we always get that opportunity to smoke a cigar by ourselves. And that could be maybe a silent celebration of something. Maybe it's just a moment of reflection. I know you like to read and smoke. So I know you've probably had a few over the years, but what's an asylum moment that comes to you where it was just you and the cigar, nobody else? What was that moment about? And you can remember, what were you smoking?
Yeah, so I'll tell you one that comes to mind right away is when my son came home from the hospital. And again, you have children, like the enormity of the responsibility really hits home when they come home from the hospital, where you're like, okay, you're in charge now. And you're like, wow, and so that kind of was like, so it was the first night, and he finally went to bed, and I went outside, and it was on St. Patrick's Day, because he was born on the 15th and he came home on the 17th. And so I went outside and I poured myself a Guinness, and I had a Casada 35th anniversary. And I remember sitting there just kind of, soaking in that, all right, buddy, you got your work cut out for you, it's a huge responsibility. So that kind of kicked in at that moment.
Here's to you. Yeah, I actually didn't smoke alone when we brought my first son home from the hospital. My best friend came over and we smoked a cigar, and we did have a beer. It wasn't a Guinness, but we had a beer, smoked a cigar, and celebrated my son's birth. And then I didn't sleep for 3 straight days because I just watched him, because I was just like terrified, with the responsibility. Yeah. Like
I've never there's before you have a child sleeping and after you have a child sleeping, and like I've never slept as soundly as I did prior to, plus you get older and then you have sleep problems anyway, but definitely yes. I've never slept as soundly since he was born. I remember once, because again, in the beginning, they wake up all the time, so they're and I was driving I'd barely been sleeping, and I was driving to work on the highway, and my eyes were open, and it started to go dark, and my brain was like, "All right, I'm out of here. You can do what you want." And so I literally pulled over on the side of the highway and like slept for like I'm surprised I didn't get like arrested or something. I was on, I was in the breakdown lane sleeping for like I think I slept for like a half hour, and then woke up and was like, I better get out of here before somebody shows up and asks why I'm sleeping on the side of the highway, and and drove on. But yeah, I remember
that. I mastered the art of power naps in college, and I was pleased that I was able to bring that back once my children arrived. Because I can,
those are great.
Because I can conk out anytime. It amazes people all the time. They're like, "Man, Bear can fall asleep through anything." Like, I'll just conk out. And that's why I love hats. I'll just pop my brim down over my eyes and I'll just conk out for however long I need to.
I call that a Reagan. Remember Reagan towards the end, he was getting a little, he wasn't as sharp as he was. He kind of dozed off a little bit. You sleep for a good 10, 15 minutes. Take a Reagan.
Yep, there you go. Power through. Just create Star Wars in the meantime. So good stuff. Well, awesome. Well, that was our Asylum moment, which is always brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. Light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Well, Terence, this last question is, of course, our final question of the evening, and I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I feel like this show kind of flew by, but we're already past the almost we're coming up on the 3 hour mark, which is crazy, or 2.5 hour mark at least, which is just nuts. But this was a great conversation, and I love having you on the show. I love talking to you, both on a show and off the show. You're one of the most fascinating people in the cigar industry, because I think you like we were talking about your approach to academia. You look at things a lot differently than just kind of surface level, which I really appreciate. I mean, that's just
thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on. I always enjoy the time. I appreciate you having me.
So we'll try not to make this the next absence go as long as this past one. So I apologize for that, but thank you so much.
You're big time now. You got bigger fish to fry.
Oh, don't start. Not at all, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at PCA this year. So I'll be there coming up, man. And we're 6 weeks away, pretty much. It's crazy. That's fast upon us. It's nuts. So
yeah, I know. It's great. You're telling me.
So this last segment is always brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Yes, it's our curveball segments. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. He did it again, everybody. 9, count them up, 9 consecutive years in the consensus top 3, taking home the first 2 spots this year, the consensus. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So we've talked a lot about your approach to academia and study and history and a lot of things tonight, Terence. But I even suggested you writing a book, on the industry and stuff. So I wanted to ask this. This is a kind of a 2-parter. If I gave you the time, what would be the first thing that you would read that you haven't yet? But also, if I gave you the time, the resources, the material, everything, what would you write about? So what would be the first thing you read that you haven't read? What would you write about?
I haven't read Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. I would like to read that. That's a long book. It's harder for me to find the time to really read thoroughly and properly a novel of that kind of length at this point. It's difficult for me because sometimes I can't read for maybe a week at a time, or for some reason because I'm traveling or whatever. And so you come back and then you got to kind of, a good reader is a rereader. And so you have to, I almost always read books twice, unless it's, something simple and it's not really necessary. But most great books, you have to really appreciate them, go through them at least once. And some of them, you got to go through them a bunch of times. But
I read Heart of Darkness twice again for you, by the way. Still don't like it.
Nice.
Still don't like it. But did pick up some interesting observations. So I will say that that I didn't catch.
Some books too, like it just depends on the time of your life. I think when you read it, I think, maybe if I read it today, I don't know if it would have the impact it had on me when I was, younger. Nabokov called Hemingway and Conrad authors for young boys. So maybe maybe that's but yeah, Anna Karenina, I haven't read that, and I'd like to take a crack at that at some point. And I mean, to be honest with you, right, it would be less of what I write about than like the stylistically. I'm more, especially as I've gotten older, I'm more prose driven. I don't like, again, this is going to become snobbish. One of the few things I'm kind of snobbish about, I guess, is art. And again, by art I mean anything that's creative, whether that's literature, theater, or cinema, or paintings or whatever. And a lot of people, when they read something, like, they base whether it's good or not if they identify with the character, which is kind of to me a childish thing. Like, you'll say, oh, it's a good book, oh, I really identify with the character. Or number two, they like a lesson from it, like it's, oh, like the moral of the story is really good, which again is usually a signal for not a well-written book. If that's the number one thing that stands out to you, like, great writing is because is due to the prose. It's due to the and William Shakespeare. It's not because his stories are. In fact, I would say his stories don't have morals. Really, I don't think there's really a moral to most. To what's the moral to Macbeth, or what's the moral to Hamlet or King Lear. I don't know. Anyway, there you could argue whether there is one or not, but like, I would say it's secondary to his prose, to how he writes.
Right.
And so, for me, most of what I think is great literature is not the story. Ulysses, which is probably the greatest book of the 20th century, is not, it's just a guy's day. I mean, there's parts of where he's going to the bathroom, and he's fondling himself on the beach, and I mean, there's a, he got banned from for
Terrence, keep talking. I'll be right back. I know we're at the end of the evening. I have to step away 2 seconds. I'm so sorry. Keep going, please.
No worries. But yeah, I like the this is unusual too. I feel like I'm talking. Well, hopefully the audience out there is enjoying this. I feel like I'm talking, or when I'm reading, it's really the writing itself that keeps me tied in. And so if I were to write something, I think it would be less about what I write about than how I write it. And that's as much as I got for you. I can't see the comments at home, so if you're commenting, I'll take a look after we get off here and answer any questions. But this, in all the years I've been doing this has never happened. It's a very nice Alec Bradley background, I have to say. Very clean, nice imagery. They've got the social media on there. I like that. I can see a little bit of Bear's chair there. And that's pretty much what I got to say. So I guess we'll just hold on here until Bear gets back. I hope he's okay. We'll see if he comes back. This is kind of, we've got some drama here. Will Bear return? Who knows? We'll see what happens. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's going to return.
Never a dull moment. My dog was getting apeshit for some reason. Just needed to make sure that no one was dying. I'm surprised nobody heard him. That was crazy. I think that well, your observations about Shakespeare notwithstanding, I think that's an interesting approach and everything. Just going back to the Anna Karenina piece, as far as reading and everything, what about that story? What is it? I know the length is a reason why you haven't dove into it, but like, what is it about that story that just made that? I mean, that seemed like a snap call by you. It's something you've always wanted to read.
It's considered one of the classic pieces of literature. I like Russian literature overall. I've read a lot of, I love Chekhov. I've read other Tolstoy. I like Master and Man is a great short story. Dostoevsky, I'm more mixed on. He's more of a philosopher than he's a great writer. He's not a great writer, but he's a great, philosophically speaking, he's very interesting. So I like that kind of group of Russian writers to begin with, and then Nabokov, who I'm a huge fan of, says that's his best book, and so I think those would be the reasons I'd want to read it.
Nice. Well, awesome. Well, Terence, I thank you so much for your time this evening. Really do appreciate it. What a wonderful conversation this has been, and I just really always love sitting down and chatting with you. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And we talked about families tonight. Recognize that Sundays are family time. You just flew back from Nicaragua. How was Puro Sabor? Did you? Was that this is only your second one, right? Because of COVID and stuff, or did you have?
No, I've been to. So I was there in 18, 19, 20, and then it was gone a couple of years. So the last two. So this is my fifth one. So I've been to five of them. And
Okay.
honestly, it's very well done. They've really improved it over the years. I think it's a great festival. They work really hard. It's very logistically difficult. I kind of have appreciation for logistics, because it's in Esteli, which is, the Habanos festival is not in Pinar del Rio. It's in Havana. So I appreciate the difficulty of being in a rural town, Nicaragua, and putting on an event for a few hundred people, getting in there and, showing them a good time. A lot of international distributors, to be honest, I joke with Fabian, he should have been down there, not me, because I'd say it's more international customers than it is American consumers or retailers, although there are some, of course. So it's always a good time, and I think it's always a good reminder of what's great about this industry. The dinners, and you get to spend time. I get to see a lot of people from the media and our international partners, and some U.S. People that I might not get to see as often as I would like otherwise. Our tours went really well. People really liked them, and I'd highly recommend anyone out there to attend. It's a great value and a great experience, and I've never had anyone that went that didn't say they had a great time, at least in the time that I've been going.
That's awesome. How do you? They're probably different, but how do you compare it to Pro Cigar? Because I know you were part of that for a while.
Pro Cigars it was awesome. To be honest with you, it's based, I think, a lot on Pro Cigar. There's a white party night. They kind of took the Pro Cigar model because it's so successful, and kind of modeled it for Nicaragua. Pro Cigar, I went to, I think, probably close to 10 of them. At least 8 or 9. And obviously there was the part too where the last day you have you been to Pro Cigar? I can't remember.
No, I haven't been to either one. So
Pro Cigar, the after it ended, we'd also go to Manila. We'd go to the factory, and we'd play cards all day from like noon till like 3 a.m. And a lot of industry guys were there, a lot of consumers were there. You'd eat sancocho and chicharron, and I have really good memories of that. It's where I met Fred Rui, actually, during one of those card games.
Interesting.
And that's I have great memories of that, and so I have a certain special fondness for that. But the Nicaraguan festival at this stage, I would say, is putting on just as great an experience. Santiago has some advantages. It's a bigger city, and when you fly into it, you're there. So your hotel is 20 minutes from the airport. Most of the factories you go, except for the part in La Romana, are basically right there. And if you do the La Romana part, it's obviously that's a beautiful place to visit. It's a world famous resort area. It's they have some advantages in terms of the logistics that Nicaragua has a harder time with. But both festivals are incredible, and I always enjoy myself at both of them.
Fantastic. Well, Terence, once again, thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for hanging out late with us, as always, on a Sunday evening. You can always check out our YouTube channel, ELOSOFUMAR. Hit the subscribe button, and that'll take you to videos. I got called out, actually, by one of my audience members, so I do want to apologize publicly to everyone. I normally don't get the YouTube videos up as quickly as they do get up on our podcast network. When you, of course, can listen to this show on any podcast network, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio. Don't forget to subscribe, download, and review. If you are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe because that helps my numbers. But on the subject of YouTube, I don't get the videos up as quickly as I should, so I do apologize for that, especially to my audience who count on those videos getting up. So I'll try to be more diligent about that in the future. But I do appreciate my audience, and I do appreciate you for calling that out. So thank you so much. But Terence, again, I can't thank you enough for being on tonight's show. You can always check out our upcoming guests. We have a great show planned for us next week. Mike Rosales of Romacraft Tobacco will be here at 9:30 Central on a Sunday evening as well. So
he's a great man.
Good times. Yeah, I love talking to Mike, and Mike and I have been friends for a long time, like you and I, Terence, and it's been great to kind of go back. It's been a long time since he's been on the show as well, so that'll be nice to kind of rekindle some things and have a great conversation and catch up on some stuff. So, check out everything Aganorsa Leaf, including the new Firecracker with our good friends over at Two Guys Smoke Shop that is being released. And then who knows what they have planned at PCA. So stay tuned. You guys doing anything special for TPE?
No, not. There's no new releases for TPE.
Okay. All right. Well, check them out as the PCA is fast approaching. Coming up here in 6 weeks. Sure, they have something rolled up their sleeves for that, and hopefully they will continue to have another great year like they had last year. The Aganorsa Leaf. We thank Terence, of course, for his time this evening, and to our audience as well for staying up late with us. So for everybody out there, I'm Bear Duplessis. This has been our 279th take. We're on the road to 300 at this point, so this is good stuff. And as always, I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. He's Terence Reilly, and guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.